Two pillars of fire sprayed out from the thunder flame flying lizards' mouths to meet the golden blood threads, but they were still unable to slow down the speed of the golden blood threads. The terrifying flames did not cause any damage to the golden blood threads at all. In the blink of an eye, the golden blood threads shot into the thunder flame flying lizards' mouths. In the next moment, the two ninth-order monster beasts let out a roar similar to a mournful wail as their huge bodies swayed from side to side, smashing through the nearby houses and collapsing them. The golden blood threads that had rushed into their bellies, under the control of Xianxia, began cutting into their bodies, causing unimaginable damage. Xianxia did not remain idle either, his figure flickering as he leapt out and soon arrived at the head of the thunder flame flying lizards, throwing a punch towards the back of its head. It seemed like a light punch, but it was impossible to tell what kind of strength it contained. However, when the fist hit the thunder flame flying lizard's head, everyone clearly saw this huge monster beast's body tremble, as if its head had been hit by a 10,000-kilogram sledgehammer. First, it was forced back, then like a meteor, it smashed into the ground with a loud bang. The earth trembled. A large crater immediately appeared in the ground as the thunder flame flying lizard's head sank into it. Worthy of being a ninth-order monster beast, even with the golden blood threads wreaking havoc in its body and Xianxia's punch to the back of its head, it still did not die. Instead, it became even more ferocious, roaring as it flapped its wide wings, trying to shake Xianxia off of it. Turning around, Xianxia arrived directly in front of the thunder flame flying lizard, stomped his feet on its lower jaw, and raised his hands high, stopping the thunder flame flying lizard's upper jaw from biting down. What is he doing? The onlookers were stunned as they looked at Xianxia in shock. He assumed this posture as if he wanted to tear this ninth-order monster beast apart. But the small human body formed a strong contrast with the thunder flame flying lizard's bloody mouth. It was as if the thunder flame flying lizard could swallow this human into its stomach with just a light bite. Xianxia's body was bent like a shrimp, his exposed muscles bulging as if they contained unimaginable strength. He and the thunder flame flying lizard were in a contest of strength. Everyone thought that Xianxia had gone crazy. As everyone knew, in terms of strength, the demon clan was born with an unimaginable advantage, not to mention a ninth-ranked demon beast like the thunder flame flying lizard. Its bite force was especially shocking to the extreme. Xianxia took the initiative to approach the monster beast's mouth, challenging the thunder flame flying lizard's strongest and most tenacious body part. Is there something wrong with this guy's head? Many people had this thought in their minds, but the result made their eyes pop out of their sockets, and the result came so quickly. Just as they began to suspect that there was something wrong with Xianxia's mind, his body, which was originally bent like a shrimp, suddenly straightened up, as if he had a violent strength that could penetrate the entire territory of the planet. The thunder flame flying lizard's bloody mouth couldn't stop Xianxia's body from straightening. That huge mouth displayed an extremely exaggerated angle of bouncing. The upper jaw suddenly flew up, and the lower jaw fell down. The air, and the thunder flame flying lizard's head was split open. The muscles and tendons on the head were torn apart by a powerful force, exposing it to everyone's eyes. Everyone was stunned and looked at Xianxia with a strange expression, as if they couldn't wrap their heads around it. If someone said that Xianxia was a monster race expert known for his strength, then the scene in front of them could be explained. But he was just a human. How could a human have such terrifying strength? Boom! The thunder flame flying lizard's huge body fell to the ground, splashing a cloud of dust. Xianxia stood in the air, bathed in blood, with a murderous aura, like a god of death from ancient times, making people shudder. He turned his head and looked at the other thunder flame flying lizard that was rushing towards him, grinning. Although the thunder flame flying lizard didn't transform into a human, it had more or less developed spiritual intelligence. Seeing that its companion had been killed by the human in an unimaginable way, how could it dare to approach? It let out a low roar and flapped its wings violently, trying to stop its pace. Shimmering Moon City's city lord, the monster race master Ma Gana, was naturally a third-order origin returning realm cultivator. However, although he was the city lord of Shimmering Moon City, he knew nothing about what had happened here, not even the arrival of Tian. It was not that Ma Gana was not well informed, but rather that Tian simply did not play by the rules. Originally, the group of cultivators riding the wolf-shaped monster beast were only responsible for investigating Tian's whereabouts and then reporting back. Naturally, the palace would send someone to meet him and bring him directly to the palace. How could they have known that Tian would not allow the monster race cultivator to send a message at all? Instead, after meeting up with them, Tian coerced them into bringing him directly to Shimmering Moon City. Obviously, Tian also knew that he had a bad reputation and was not very popular wherever he went. So in order to prevent news of his arrival from leaking out and causing the residents of Shimmering Moon City to be prepared and hide his beautiful woman, he did not allow anyone to inform the city lord of Shimmering Moon City about his arrival. Instead, Tian came here directly, intending to hunt for some curiosity before heading to Red Moon Tribal Lord's palace. It was a wonderful idea, but as soon as he entered the city, his authority was challenged by Xianxia, and even the two ninth-order monster beasts used to pull his carriage were killed. Young Lord Tian, Ma Gana recognized Tian's identity at a glance, and his face could not help sinking. He did not welcome this Tian from the bottom of his heart to stir up trouble in his city. Tian greets Senior Ma Gana. Tian came uninvited. I hope Senior will not take offense. Tian smiled and cupped his fists, still as gentle and elegant as ever, his smile dazzling, infatuating countless women. What's going on here? Ma Gana's face sank as he looked at the monster race cultivator riding the wolf-shaped monster beast. Cold sweat dripped down the monster race cultivator's forehead as he knew that the city lord master was very unhappy, so he did not dare to conceal anything and quickly explained what had happened. Impudence! We heard that Xianxia had actually killed Tian's carriage monster beast. Ma Gana immediately roared, his sharp eyes glaring towards Xianxia. Although he didn't like Tian messing around in his territory, a human daring to offend a noble of the monster race was definitely not something he could tolerate. In contrast, he didn't feel any disgust towards Tian's unsolicited approach. However, who was this human? Being able to kill two ninth-order monster beasts in such a short time, his strength was not to be underestimated. Ma Gana looked at Xianxia suspiciously, unable to remember where such a master had appeared in the human race. Presumptuous? Xianxia squinted at him, not giving him the slightest bit of face as he shouted aggressively. So what if I'm presumptuous? Are you going to bite me? Arrogant. Ma Gana flew into a rage. He had lived for so many years, but he had never seen such an arrogant human before. Throughout Monster Star, which human did not know the immensity of heaven and earth like this boy? Even the most powerful human would have to treat the monster race with respect, let alone a city lord like him. Ma Gana glanced over at Tian, just as Tian happened to be looking over at him. The two men's eyes met, and both understood what the other was thinking. They had to join forces to kill or capture this human, otherwise the monster race would lose all face. But before they could act, though, a strange energy fluctuation suddenly appeared somewhere in Shimmering Moon City. Tian and Ma Gana were both third-order origin returning realm masters, so they naturally noticed it immediately. What puzzled them, though, was that they were unable to determine what was causing this energy fluctuation. Xianxia's expression became solemn as he glanced in the direction of the energy fluctuation, frowned for a moment, but soon, as if thinking of something, his figure flickered and he rushed over. His speed was incredibly fast. Please give this old master some face. And since Master Bahi says so, we'll wait. Ma Gana nodded. In front of Bahi, he really didn't dare act presumptuously. What about this human? Mi Tian suddenly turned to Yang Kai with a sneer on his face. Senior Bahi, are you also going to protect his safety? Of course, this young man is also my guest. Bahi replied matter-of-factly. Haha, then Mi Tian will give Senior some face, but it's only limited to Senior. This human killed 2 of my monster beasts pulling my carriage, so this account will be settled sooner or later. Mi Tian chuckled as he turned an aggressive look towards Yang Kai, provoking him, Human, don't let this young lord find an opportunity, otherwise. Yang Kai curled his lips, not caring about this threat. Right now, for him, making sure no one disturbed Xianxia was his top priority. Everything else was secondary. Calming down such a storm, no matter who it was something he was looking forward to. But what exactly did this Bahi want to do? Yang Kai's playful eyes swept over the owner of the inn. From the mouths of the onlookers, just now, he vaguely heard some secrets and knew that this Bahi had been hiding his identity for the past 200 years. But now he suddenly took the initiative to expose his identity and even try to protect him and Xianxia. What was he trying to do? Yang Kai didn't believe that he was really just trying to protect his guests. The older he got, the wiser he became, the more noble he became. Hey, what's this smell? Suddenly, a cry of surprise came from the crowd. It smells so good. It seems to be the smell of a spirit pill. Has a top-grade spirit pill appeared? Could it be that this phenomenon was caused by alchemy? These words stirred up 1,000 waves as the crowd began to shout. The phenomenon caused by Xianxia's spirit pill was extremely conspicuous and grand. In the early stages, not many people could distinguish it. Even masters like Ma Gana and Mi Tian, who had extensive knowledge and experience, were able to distinguish it. But as time passed and the rich medicinal fragrance began to fill the air, the secret hidden in the inn could no longer be concealed. As the fragrance continued to spread, almost everyone cast fiery gazes towards the inn. They had already identified that this fragrance was coming from this seemingly simple inn. Almost every cultivator's face showed a look of intoxication and comfort. Just smelling this medicinal fragrance was enough to make one feel enlightened. If they were to eat this pill, what effect would it have? What kind of spirit pill could produce such a fragrance and cause such a phenomenon? The eyes of many cultivator gradually became fiery and greedy. If it weren't for Bahi, Ma Gana, and the other masters standing in front of the inn, it was likely this small and would have been crushed by the crazy flow of people. Young Lord Mi Tian, after determining that the phenomenon in front of them was indeed caused by alchemy, Ma Gana quietly turned to Mi Tian and sent him a divine sense message. That old dog Ba, he seems to want to monopolize this spirit pill. No wonder, after hiding for more than 200 years, he didn't hesitate to expose his identity today. If that's the case, this spirit pill must be extraordinary, but I don't know which human alchemist is refining it. Mi Tian replied coldly. Then if he wants to monopolize it, that will depend on whether he has the ability. 200 years ago, he and Red Moon Tribal Lord had a very unpleasant relationship. I don't know what kind of concealment technique he used, but he was actually able to escape from Lord Red Moon's clutches. Since he has been exposed today, his good days have come to an end. I think even if we kill him, Lord Red Moon won't blame us. And good. We'll listen to young Lord Mi Tian, Ma Gana replied. His current alchemy skills were even better than Xianxia's, and he could even refine Origin King grade pills. If this kind of skill were to be leaked, Chiyu Tribal Lord would likely treat him as an honored guest. After all, Origin King grade alchemists were extremely rare. Throughout the entire star territory, such existences were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. Monster Star and Monster Star had never appeared before. Young man, this old master can only help you this much. What you do inside the palace will depend on your own means, but this old master has to warn you in advance. If you want to live, you'd best not be too presumptuous inside the palace. Bahi glanced at Yongkai and quietly sent him a message. Yongkai did not comment, and instead asked with great interest, Sir Bahi did not hesitate to expose your identity, this time not just to help our senior sister. But what is your purpose? If it is convenient, can you tell me? Naturally, it's not just to help you. And I just want to take this opportunity to return to the palace and ask from Master Tribal Lord's forgiveness. Bahi's face flashed a lonely look. Yongkai raised his brow as he suddenly remembered that the monster race onlookers had said that 200 years ago, Bahi seemed to have been killed by Tribal Lord Master Tribal Lord himself. But for some reason, he was alive and well in this world. It seemed that there was indeed something between Bahi and Chiyu Tribal Lord. At least, the rumors were wrong. Bahi had not been killed by Chiyu Tribal Lord. Perhaps Chiyu had simply let him go. However, Yongkai was too lazy to care about other people's affairs, so he simply nodded and said, If that's all, then we can be considered to be cooperating with each other. It's not a big deal, we each take what we need. Ahem. In addition to returning to the palace, this old master actually has one more thing he wants to ask you for help with. Bahi suddenly became embarrassed. What? I want to ask your senior sister to help me perform alchemy. Bahi said bluntly before quickly adding, You can rest assured, I have gathered all the materials. As long as I can refine the pill, I will definitely reward you handsomely. We'll talk about this when the time comes. Depending on senior sister's mood, perhaps she will be willing to help you. Yongkai grinned. This little bastard, it's like he's burning the bridge after crossing the river. Bahi couldn't help rolling his eyes. The strange phenomenon in the sky became more and more powerful. As time passed, the vortex also covered the sky, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth that gathered together made people tremble in fear. This kind of phenomenon was no worse than the world energy baptism that would appear when a cultivator broke through to the origin returning realm, perhaps even more so. No matter who it was, no one would have thought that a trivial alchemy could cause such a phenomenon. As a result, everyone became even more curious, wanted to know what kind of pill the Grandmaster inside was refining. However, the rich medicinal fragrance made everyone judge that this alchemy was definitely not below origin grade. On Monster Star, there were more than a dozen origin grade alchemists, the most powerful of which was an origin grade high-rank alchemist. Although this alchemist was a human, no monster race cultivator dared to disrespect him on Monster Star. The human race had a very low status on this cultivation star, but those with real talent were valued, resulting in a serious polarization. All of this was thanks to the wise leadership of Red Moon Tribal Lord. If it weren't for her efforts to recruit talented humans, Red Moon territory would not have become so powerful. Among the 10 largest territories on Monster Star, Red Moon territory definitely ranked in the top 3. One had to know that 1,000 years ago, Red Moon territory was the weakest territory on Monster Star. For such a transformation to occur in just 1,000 years, Red Moon territory's contribution could not be ignored. It was conceivable that in the future, Red Moon territory would become the most powerful territory on Monster Star. Unlike the surrounding monster race cultivators, Yongkai was also an alchemist, so he could judge the progress of his little senior sister from the world energy phenomenon and medicinal fragrance. He was always paying attention to the changes in the world energy phenomenon and medicinal fragrance, secretly feeling nervous for Xianxia. Although with the cultivation of these people, It would have been faster to use star shuttles. Ma Gena had still arranged such a grand procession in order to show the importance he attached to Xianxia. Yang Kai also basked in the glory and sat in the carriage with Xianxia. In fact, he didn't want to be so ostentatious, but his little senior sister seemed very helpless on her own. She had never been the center of attention like this before. With no other choice, Yang Kai could only accompany them. Mi Tian followed behind on his wolf-type monster beast, his eyes spitting fire. Only a man like him was worthy of such an outstanding woman. What was that human named Yang Kai? Although his combat strength was indeed good, he was still just a lowly human. The intimacy between the two of them on the beast carriage almost blinded Mi Tian's charming eyes. Just you wait. The debt of killing this young lord's two-carriage monster beast will be settled sooner or later. Mi Tian secretly swore to himself. This was Red Moon territory. So although the news that Shimmering Moon City Lord was escorting a human race alchemy grandmaster to the palace, with a large number of origin returning realm masters had spread, no monster race cultivator in Red Moon territory dared to cause trouble. The speed of the carriage was extremely fast, almost comparable to flying. After only 5 days, a large group of majestic buildings appeared in front of them. There were many palaces and pavilions. Red Moon Tribal Lord's Palace was built on top of a large mountain, and from the bottom of the mountain all the way up, one could see neatly arranged palaces and passages of varying width. Half Moon Mountain, this was Red Moon Tribal Lord's Palace. It was also the holy land in the minds of all monster race cultivators in Red Moon territory. Their spiritual leader, Red Moon's master, lived here all year round. Yang Kai stood on the carriage and stared forward with a deep look in his eyes. His elder sister Qing Luo inside. Xianxia asked softly. She should be. Yang Kai gently nodded. I wonder how she is now. She must be even more beautiful, Xianxia murmured. She had seen Qing Luo before, and although she had only seen her a few times back in the central capital, that seductive woman had still left a deep impression on her. Xianxia had never seen such a seductive woman before, and even she couldn't help feeling a rush of excitement when she saw her. She seemed to be born to charm men, and Xianxia wondered if there was any man in this world who could resist the dazzling charm of Qing Luo. You'll know soon enough. Yang Kai patted the back of Xianxia's hand, wrapped his arm around her waist, and lightly flew down from the carriage. Red Moon Master's palace is really extraordinary. This young lord has been looking forward to seeing it for a long time, and now his wish has finally been fulfilled. Mi Tian didn't look at the intimacy between Yang Kai and Xianxia. What the eye didn't see, the heart didn't grieve over as he sighed with emotion towards the palace. Let's go. We'll have to walk from here. Master Tribal Lord should have already received the news and sent someone to greet us. Ma Gena waved his hand, indicating for the other monster race cultivators to wait in place before leading Yang Kai and the others forward. Red Moon Tribal Lord had indeed received the news long ago and had sent someone to wait for them at the foot of the mountain. When Ma Gena and the others arrived, the monster race cultivator who was waiting here glanced at Xianxia faintly and gently nodded. Thank you for your hard work. Tribal Lord Master has ordered that Ma Gena has performed a meritorious service in escorting us and will be rewarded at a later date. Please go to the guest house to rest and wait. Ma Gena beamed with joy and hurriedly thanked him. Chapter 1576. Human, Master Yuxiong's temper is not very good. If you want to live, quickly admit your wrongs, apologize, and kowtow. You may be able to keep your life. A monster race man shouted, seemingly wanting to instruct Yang Kai on how to behave. After all, the charm of the master above was obvious to all, so it wasn't entirely his fault that this human race man had lost his composure like this. Admit my wrongs, apologize. Yang Kai stroked his chin, looking like he didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, but his eyes were still fixed on the enchanting woman as a playful smile appeared on his face. Beauty, are you sure you want me to do this? As soon as these words came out, everyone present was shocked. Everyone's eyes turned towards Yang Kai, revealing looks of disbelief. This human, actually called the Master of Beauty? This was not just rude, but blatant flirting. Although the Master was originally a human, for some special reason, she had been adopted as the adopted daughter of Tribal Lord Master. Over the years, she had been carefully trained and cultivated, and her talents were well known throughout the world. Even the elites of the monster race had to act humbly and respectfully when they saw her. A human race man, in front of everyone's eyes, actually dared to flirt with the Master so blatantly? Had he never died before? Bold! A monster race master shouted, his face filled with anger. Flirting with the Master was tantamount to insulting the monster race and Red Moon Tribal Lord. No monster race master could tolerate Yang Kai's impudence, so for a time, everyone in the hall was filled with anger and murderous intent. Yu Xiong froze for a moment, seemingly unable to recover from his shock, but after a while, he burst into laughter. Pointing to Yang Kai, he turned to the enchanting woman and said, "Little sister, this little gigolo actually called you a beauty. Am I not?" The enchanting woman glanced at Yu Xiong lightly, her phoenix eyes narrowing slightly. Yu Xiong's laughter immediately got stuck in his throat as he shrank back and hurriedly said, "Of course, that's not what elder brother meant. It's just that I've never heard anyone call you that before, so I was surprised. And this little gigolo is too shameless. Do you want elder brother to teach him a lesson?" As he spoke, he glared at Yang Kai. In the Red Moon territory, Yu Xiong could be said to be under only one person. As the adopted son of the Red Moon Tribal Lord, his strength and status were not something an ordinary Monster Clan member could compare with. His temper was upright and unyielding, and he was not afraid of anything. There were only two people who could make him submit. One was naturally the Red Moon Tribal Lord. The other was the coquettish woman sitting to his right. If one were to say that he was in awe of the Red Moon Tribal Lord, in that case, he admired his little sister. He admired her aptitude and cultivation speed, which was something he would never be able to reach. His foster mother had once said that, in Red Moon territory, his little sister was the most promising existence to break through to the Origin King realm besides Bahi. In this aspect, he was no match for him. No need. The enchanting woman refused Yu Xiong's proposal. You're letting him go just like that? That would be letting him off too lightly. He must pay the price for his frivolity. Yu Xiong shook his head, somewhat unhappy. The coquettish woman smiled lightly, got up from her chair, and walked down, chuckling lightly as she said, "Let him off? Naturally, there's no such thing as letting such a shameless guy off so casually. I'll teach him a lesson myself." That's fine too." Yu Xiong nodded before turning a gloating look towards Yang Kai, grinning as he said, "Little gigolo, you're finished. If this uncle were to take action, I could give you a quick death. But if little sister were to take action, haha." When the monster race masters standing on either side heard that this master was going to teach this little gigolo a lesson herself, they immediately cheered up and secretly looked forward to the show. But then again, to be able to be taught a lesson by this master herself, this little gigolo was truly blessed. Many monster race masters showed looks of envy. A moment later, the coquettish woman arrived in front of Yang Kai, her smooth white chin still slightly raised, giving her a noble and inviolable look, revealing her white, slender neck, a dazzling sight to behold. Yang Kai showed no fear and simply stared back at her with a smile. The woman grit her teeth and slowly stretched out her hand, her jade finger poking towards Yang Kai's chest. Yu Xiong watched unhappily, looking forward to what kind of inhumane and heinous method his little sister would use to torture this shameless guy. Many monster race masters also stretched their necks forward, a look of satisfaction on their faces, pointing her jade finger at Yang Kai's chest. The coquettish woman grit her teeth and said, "Tell me, should I dig out your heart, pull out your liver, or directly cut open your stomach and see if there's black or white inside?" Do you hate me that much? Kai rubbed his nose. Yes. The coquettish woman raised her chin a little more. I hate you to the bone. I wish I could tear you into 10,000 pieces. I wish I could grind your bones to dust, huh? Kai chuckled dryly. As the coquettish woman spoke, her jade finger gently poked Kai's chest as she ground her teeth, as if there was some kind of deep hatred between her and Kai. Yu Xiong's face flashed with excitement as he secretly paid attention to Kai's reaction. His little sister didn't seem to be using any overly harsh means, but with her ability, it should be easy for her to cause this little gigolo some internal injuries. Yu Xiong wondered if this little gigolo's 5 viscera and 6 organs would turn into a pool of pus after being poked a few times by his little sister. But why did his little sister's tone sound so sad? Yu Xiong scratched his head, puzzled. Don't make trouble. Kai showed a helpless look as he grabbed the coquettish woman's little hand. The other party tried to pull back, but was unable to do so. The group of monster race masters were immediately filled with righteous indignation, their eyes spitting fire. Audacious! This little brat not only dared to flirt with their master, but now even dared to take advantage of her. How could they tolerate this? Just as they were about to rush out and teach Kai a good lesson, they saw a shy look appear on the master's face, her white cheeks blushing slightly, even her neck becoming pink. Her raised chin lowered at some point, and her proud temperament became gentle and pleasant at this moment. What was going on? Why did the master have such a reaction? Suddenly, he glanced at Xianxia, who had been standing quietly next to Kai, and asked, "What is the relationship between you and this girl?" "Little senior sister is my woman." Kai smiled, reaching out and hugging Xianxia's waist while pulling Shanqing Luo into his embrace with his other hand. Shanqing Luo struggled slightly, but still complied with Kai's wishes, snuggling into Kai's arms with a blush. Yu Xiong's jaw dropped as he stared dumbfoundedly at this human gigolo with a brilliant smile on his face, a feeling of admiration welling up in his heart as he gave him a big thumbs up. This is a true winner in life. A perfect example of a gigolo. Shanqing Luo nodded lightly. Adoptive mother is a second-order origin king. If she really wanted to kill Bahi would have died without a doubt. It would have been impossible for him to survive. Kai nodded gently. Kai, Shanqing Luo suddenly called out softly. Do you think that human woman becoming the demon race and dying suddenly had something to do with adoptive mother? How would I know? What happened more than 200 years ago? I'm afraid no one knows except for the people involved. Kai smiled slightly, but suddenly saw the worried look on Shanqing Luo's face and asked in a low voice, "What are you worried about?" Shanqing Luo slowly shook her head and squeezed out a smile. "It's nothing. By the way, you have to be careful of that Meteon. I heard that you had a conflict with him in Shimmering Moon City. Meteon is a proud and arrogant guy, so if you offend him, he will never let you go." "Don't worry, he can't do anything to me." Kai smiled proudly. The two talked for a while before Shanqing Luo got up and left. "Junior brother, what should we do next?" After Shanqing Luo left, Xianxia asked softly. "I haven't thought about it yet." Kai grinned. He had tried to enter the palace mainly because he wanted to see how Shanqing Luo was doing. Now that he saw that she was doing well and her status was high, he naturally felt relieved. "Then do you want to take elder sister Qing Luo away?" Xianxia asked again. "I didn't think so, but based on what she said, I think it's better for her to stay here. After all, this is Monster Star, which is extremely beneficial to her cultivation and future development." Xianxia gently nodded. After listening to Bahi's story, she immediately understood that if Kai really insisted on taking Shanqing Luo away, it would be very difficult. No one knew whether the death of a human woman who fell in love with Ba had anything to do with Red Moon Tribal Lord. But if it really was Red Moon tribal lords doing, Xianxia understood why Shanxing Luo showed a worried look just now. She was clearly afraid that Yang Kai would follow in the footsteps of that human woman. For the sake of her adopted daughter's future, Red Moon tribal lord would not mind the death of a human man. But since we're here, we should naturally search for a batch of unique materials here first. Yang Kai looked at Xianxia with a smile. Little senior sister, I'm afraid I'll have to rely on your strength for this. After leaving the guest room, Shanxing Luo took Biluo straight to Qiyu's palace. She was highly regarded by Qiyu and was being cultivated as a future successor, so naturally no one dared to stop her from walking around the palace. All the monster race cultivator who saw her bowed respectfully to show their respect. Arriving outside the palace, Shanxing Luo happened to see a bare-waisted, tiger-backed man standing outside the palace, his brow furrowed and his body slightly tilted, as if he was listening to something. Yuxiong. Shanxing Luo walked up and shouted. Hearing this call, Yuxiong quickly turned around and put a finger to his lips, shushing her. Sneaking around in front of adoptive mother's palace. What are you doing? Be careful, adoptive mother doesn't know you'll be punished. Shanxing Luo frowned and reprimanded him. Senior Ba, he is being tortured inside. Listen. Yuxiong pointed inside with a gossipy expression on his face. Shanxing Luo was surprised and listened carefully. Sure enough, she heard tragic screams coming from inside the palace. Her face couldn't help turning pale as she asked in shock, does adoptive mother refuse to forgive Senior Bahi? Although she had never met Bahi, Bahi's situation was somewhat similar to hers. If Red Moon, tribal lord, refused to let go of Bahi, then the future of her and Yang Kai would be bleak. Bahi's ending, to a certain extent, was a good example for her to learn from. So when she heard Bahi's screams while being tortured inside, Shanxing Luo became nervous. She seemed to be able to see Yang Kai being tortured in front of her adoptive mother. I don't know, adoptive mother has always been pleasant and rarely gets angry. She only instructs us rather than reprimands us, never punishes us. Seeing Senior Bahi being tortured so miserably this time, it seems adoptive mother is really angry. Yuxiong smacked his lips as his ears perked up, listening even more intently. Shanxing Luo's expression changed as she became even more worried, secretly wondering what she should say when she saw adoptive mother. Chapter 1578. Shanxing Luo and Yuxiong listened outside the palace for more than an hour before the screams inside gradually subsided. Even a monster race master like Yuxiong could not help feeling a little apprehensive upon seeing this. The door of the palace opened with a bang and a figure staggered out. This person was covered in blood and his aura was extremely weak, as if he was not far from death. Shanxing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly. She could tell at a glance that this master should be Bahi. After all, he was exuding a powerful third-order origin-returning realm aura. It seemed that adoptive mother was really angry this time, and it was hard to tell if she had forgiven Senior Bahi or not. Senior, you're all right. Yuxiong walked over and helped Bahi up. Cough, cough. I'm fine. I won't die for the time being. Bahi waved his hand slowly, as if he didn't even have the strength to speak. Yuxiong opened his mouth, but didn't know how to comfort him. Bahi suddenly raised his head and looked towards Shanxing Luo. Even though this old man was extremely knowledgeable and had seen countless people, the moment he saw Shanxing Luo, his eyes couldn't help lighting up and his originally weak aura seemed to recover somewhat. Gently nodding, Bahi said, "This should be Sister Shan." Xing Luo greets Senior. Shanxing Luo bowed gracefully. Sister Shan is too polite. Good. The monster race has finally produced some decent talents. Bahi smiled. This old master acted willfully back then and failed to live up to the expectations of Tribal Lord Master. I hope you won't disappoint her again. I will follow Senior's teachings. Shanxing Luo whispered with a complicated expression. Go in. Master's waiting for you. Bahi waved his hand, supported his weak body, and walked out step by step, leaving behind a trail of blood in his wake. Shanxing Luo and Yuxiong stared at Bahi's receding figure and couldn't help sighing. The future star of the monster race, the strongest master below the Origin King realm, was now being punished like this by adoptive mother. Is that Qing Luo? Come in, inside the palace. Qiyu's voice called out. Xianxia Luo felt guilty for no reason. Biting her red lips, she braced herself and walked inside. I'll go back first, Yu Xiong muttered to himself before turning around to flee. Yu Xiong, get in here too. Qiyu's tender voice called out. Yu Xiong's scalp went numb. His raised foot immediately fell back down. He turned around. With an expression as if her parents had died, she reluctantly followed behind Xianxia Luo. He should have withdrawn long ago. Yu Xiong's intestines turned green with regret. In the spacious and bright bedroom, a beautiful woman dressed in palace attire stood there quietly. His expression was as calm as an ancient well. The beautiful woman had a voluptuous figure. Her breasts were tall and straight, and her waist was slender and beautiful. There wasn't the slightest bit of energy fluctuation coming from her body. She looked like an ordinary person who had never cultivated before. She was extremely beautiful, her red lips like the most beautiful rubies, flashing an alluring luster, her skin white as snow, and her 10 slender white fingers. In terms of attractiveness to men, she was not inferior to Xianxia Luo at all, only lacking the natural charm of Xianxia Luo. However, the noble aura exuding from her tender body was many times higher than that of Xianxia Luo. It was hard to imagine that such a beautiful woman was one of the 10 tribal lords of Monster Star and the adoptive mother of Xianxia Luo and Yu Xiong, Qiyu. After the brother and sister pair came in, they first greeted Qiyu, and after receiving a response from her, they sat down carefully. Has the alchemy grandmaster from Shimmering Moon City been properly arranged? Qiyu asked casually. Reporting to adoptive mother, everything has been arranged. Adoptive mother, please forgive me. The battle was not long at that time, so daughter was not able to observe carefully, but daughter is certain that he is not weak. Qiyu smiled softly and slowly said, Since you are so sure, I can give him a chance. Although his courage to come to Monster Star for you is admirable, in the end, he is still just a human, and he seems to have another woman. How can Qiyu's daughter share a man with another woman? Put away your feelings for now. I will personally observe what he is like. If he really has the ability to make me approve of him, I will not oppose your relationship. However, if he is only a superficial person, I will personally kill him. After saying so, Qiyu looked towards Xianxia Luo, thinking that she would panic and beg for mercy. But instead, she saw a look of joy on Xianxia Luo's face. Do you have so much confidence in him? Qiyu was surprised. Although I haven't seen him for several dozen years, he was a man who was good at creating miracles. Daughter believes that he will not let me or adoptive mother down. Xianxia Luo quickly said, Good, since you say so, I can rest assured. Qiyu nodded gently, very satisfied with Xianxia Luo's attitude, and shouted, Yu Xiong. Yes, daughter. Yu Xiong quickly got up. I'll leave this matter to you. Test the depths of that little bastard for me. If he's just an ordinary human, kill him as soon as possible, lest he becomes an eyesore. Qiyu waved her hand. Yes. Yu Xiong's eyes flashed a fierce light as he replied in a deep voice. You may leave. The brother and sister pair left Qiyu's palace, Yu Xiong looking excited as he rubbed his hands together, ready to go all out. Although he felt that Yang Kai was a very interesting guy, even daring to call him his brother-in-law, in the end, he was still a human being, on the premise that he already had another woman, yet he still coveted his little sister. It was no different from a toad wanting to eat swan meat. Now that he had received Qiyu's instructions, of course, he had to carefully evaluate Yang Kai. No matter what, he had to beat the crap out of him first. Yu Xiong, Xianxia Luo shouted. What's the matter? Yu Xiong quickly looked up at her. Xianxia Luo's beautiful eyes flashed with a cold light as she glared at him and said, If you dare take action against him personally, I'll teach you a lesson. Yu Xiong was dumbfounded and said with a sullen expression, Little sister, big brother is only acting on behalf of adoptive mother I don't care. In any case, you can't do it yourself. Otherwise, you won't have a little sister like me in the future. After saying so, she didn't give Yu Xiong a chance to speak and simply left. Little sister, great aunt, great aunt. Yu Xiong called out from behind, but no matter how he shouted, he didn't get any response. He suddenly felt that this was a very difficult task. After living in the palace for 3 days, Qiyu finally summoned Xianxia. As an alchemy grandmaster who could refine pill clouds, Xianxia was qualified to do so. As for Yangkai, Qiyu didn't pay him any mind and naturally had no intention of meeting him. Qiyu had a very good impression of Xianxia. This human woman was docile and kind, with clear and pure eyes. Not only was her cultivation high, but her attainments in alchemy were also extremely profound. When she summoned Xianxia, Qiyu specifically asked several famous alchemists in the palace to accompany her in order to test Xianxia's skills. The result was to her satisfaction. In terms of understanding of alchemy, Xianxia already had the demeanor of a grandmaster, not inferior in the slightest to the white-haired old men who had devoted their lives to alchemy. The alchemy competition held on the spot was also won by Xianxia with an absolute advantage. Qiyu was overjoyed to obtain such a talent and immediately offered extremely generous conditions, allowing Xianxia to live in the palace with peace of mind and perform alchemy for her. If it weren't for Xianxia's inexperience and age, the position of chief alchemist in the palace would likely have changed hands. No matter what, he is still my brother-in-law, ha ha ha. So it's really my fault. Shanqing Luo smiled sweetly as she ground her teeth. No, it's all Big Brother's fault. Yu Xiong immediately admitted his mistake. Yu Xiong readily admitted his mistake. He knew that if he continued to pester her, he would definitely not have a good end. So if he acted like a coward, his little sister would forgive him. If anything happens to my man, you're dead. Qing Luo grit her teeth and shouted, "Worrying too much, Sister Qing Luo." At that moment, a voice suddenly came from the side. Both Shanqing Luo and Yu Xiong were startled and quickly turned their heads to look at the source of the voice, only to find that Bahi had arrived at some unknown time and was standing not far from them. Worthy of being the strongest master under the Origin King realm on Monster Star. It seemed that after living in seclusion for 200 years, not only had his cultivation not regressed, it had actually advanced even further. Yu Xiong and Shanqing Luo were filled with awe and quickly saluted. "Senior, what you said just now? Are you optimistic about Yangkai?" Shanqing Luo looked at Bahi with her beautiful eyes and asked excitedly. Although she was also a third-order origin returning realm cultivator, comparable to Bahi, in terms of eyesight, she admitted that she couldn't compare with the other party, so Bahi's words made her feel much more relieved. Bahi chuckled. "I didn't say that, but he really isn't easy to deal with. I'm afraid Shuel Yin won't be able to take him down in his current state." After saying so, Bahi sighed again. Amazing. Young people nowadays are really amazing. This little guy is just a second-order origin returning realm cultivator. Yet he was able to force Shuel Yin into such a state. If he really breaks through to the third order, Shuo will definitely not be his opponent. Shanqing Luo looked happy as a sense of pride welled up in her heart. This was the man she had chosen. That was how extraordinary it was. Back when he was in the central capital, he had set off a storm with his weak cultivation. At that time, he often created miracles, but after several dozen years, he seemed to be even more outstanding than he was back then. Shuo was not an ordinary monster race master. He had a great background and was a top existence even among third-order origin returning realm masters. Shanqing Luo's beautiful eyes bloomed with a strange brilliance as a sense of pride welled up in her heart, as if as long as it was Yang Kai, no matter how incredible it was normal. Senior, did you just say that in his current state, Shuo won't be able to take him down? Yu Xiong, on the other hand, understood the hidden meaning in Bahi's words. Shuo hasn't used his full strength yet. You should be able to see that the potential of the Blood Flood Dragon bloodline hasn't been fully awakened yet, Bahi explained with a smile. He was the most powerful monster race bloodline on Monster Star, a fact that all monster race masters had to admit. After displaying the Flood Dragon transformation, Shuo strength would soar by at least 30%, a secret technique of the Blood Flood Dragon bloodline. Most powerful monster race masters possessed this secret technique, but depending on their bloodline, the potential they could stimulate would vary. The current Shuo, compared to just now, was like a completely different person. A fierce and surging aura spread out from him, causing the entire world to tremble. The blood in his body seemed to be boiling and burning. A red aura wrapped around him. The red mist twisted and changed, rising into the air like a flame, making him look like a burning fireball. Shuo is going all out. Vaguely, there seemed to be a small snake-like thing swimming inside this blood bead. Shuo has gone mad. Yu Xiong was shocked and shouted in horror. He actually spat out his monster core. Not good. Shuo is going all out. Bai's face also flashed a look of horror as he hurriedly shouted, "Stop him!" Saying so, he hurriedly rushed over to the battlefield. Shanqing Luo also seemed to have recovered and nodded before following closely behind Bahi. The experts of the demon clan, regardless of whether they were transformed from demonic beasts into humans or were born with a human body, had a special item called the inner elixir in their bodies. The inner elixir was the most important treasure of the demon clan. It was the existence of their life. A monster race cultivator would never use their monster core in battle unless it was absolutely necessary, because once it was damaged, the consequences would be unimaginable. Chapter 1584. The risk he had to take was not small, but using his monster core could greatly increase the strength of a monster race cultivator. Shuo spitting out his monster core at this time showed just how crazy he had become, so it was no wonder he and the others were so frightened. Shuo identity was extraordinary. So if he was still defeated by Yang Kai even after using his monster core, the Blood Flood Dragon Tribal Lord would never give up. He was a top master whose strength was not inferior to Qiyu's. So if he became angry, all of Monster Star would be plunged into darkness. But if Shuo won, with his current madness, Yang Kai's fate would not be any better. How could Bahi, Yu Xiong, and Shanqing Luo just stand by and watch? So, no matter what, they had to stop Shuo before he could use the source strength contained in his monster core. Only then could they turn big problems into small ones, and small ones into nothing. The movements of these three were not slow. They were only 1,000 meters apart, so with their strength, they arrived at the battlefield in the blink of an eye. Bai opened his mouth and was about to act as a peacemaker and persuade the two to stop, but before he could say anything, a loud roar rang out from Yang Kai's body, and at the same time, an incredible power spread out. Even someone as strong as Ba, he felt his heart tremble. The words he was about to say got stuck in his throat as he stared at Xianxia in horror, the corners of his eyes twitching. If he had heard correctly, that loud roar just now should have been dragon roar. Inside her palace, Qiyu's beautiful face paled as she stood up abruptly, a strange brilliance flashing across her beautiful eyes, as if she had discovered something incredible. Even with her second-order origin king cultivation, when that roar rang out, she still felt goosebumps all over her body. She still had goosebumps all over her body. That was an instinctive reverence that had nothing to do with strength. Qiyu had a trace of the heavenly moon demon spider's bloodline, which was why she was able to cultivate to the origin king realm. This was also why she was so optimistic about Xianxia Luo, who had absorbed the heavenly moon demon spider source, and did not hesitate to accept Xianxia Luo as her adopted daughter and vigorously cultivate her. She looked forward to the day when Xianxia Luo would be able to bring back the majesty of the heavenly moon demon spider to this world and see the ancient era once more. The power of the heavenly moon demon spider. The heavenly moon demon spider was an ancient species. It was a terrifying monster beast. However, compared to the legendary ancient divine spirits, there was still a gap. Among the ancient saint spirits, dragons and phoenixes reigned supreme. Unfortunately, such a powerful holy spirit, he had long since disappeared in the long river of history. Only in the most ancient books and records could one see their sky-covering figures and their exaggerated descriptions. Those ancient holy spirits that only existed in legends. Strictly speaking, they were also part of the Yao clan, but they were born emperors of the Yao clan. They were existences that every Yao clan had to bow down to. Qiyu thought that these ancient divine spirits had already gone extinct, but in her temporary residence, she had no choice. She suddenly heard the purest dragon roar. It pierced straight into the 9 heavens and was deafening, causing the trace of heavenly moon demon spider's bloodline in her body to tremble in fear. She no longer hesitated. Her figure flickered and disappeared from the palace. Then, she rushed towards the battlefield. She knew that Yin was in big trouble this time. Outside the palace, Xianxia's expression remained indifferent as he took a deep breath, giving up on suppressing the mysterious power in his body and allowing it to erupt. A dragon's roar shook the heavens, and a dazzling golden light flashed as a huge golden figure suddenly emerged from Xianxia's body. This figure covered the sky and exuded a thick, majestic aura. Its 2 eyes, which were larger than houses, were also golden in color, awe-inspiring to those who looked at them. Shaking its head and wagging its tail, it rushed straight towards Yin without the slightest hesitation. Yin was dumbfounded. The frenzied aura around his body was instantly extinguished as if a basin of cold water had been poured over it. While he was lost in thought, the golden dragon opened its bloody maw and bit down on the monster core in front of him, swallowing it into its stomach. Immediately after, it returned to the top of Xianxia's head and looked down. Impossible! Mi Tian cried out involuntarily as he stared blankly at the golden dragon, shocked by the sudden appearance of this figure. Divine dragon! Yu Xiong almost bit his tongue as his whole body trembled violently. Bai stared speechlessly at the shocking scene in front of him, as if he had lost the ability to speak. Xianxia Luo's beautiful eyes flashed brilliantly as an 8-legged giant silver spider phantom suddenly appeared behind her, resisting the thick dragon pressure. This giant spider was the size of a house, and its phantom was so condensed that it seemed almost tangible, with a crescent moon mark on its forehead. Heavenly Moon Demon Spider. Of all the people present, only she was in a better situation. Firstly, she was a human, so the dragon pressure suppression on her was the least, and secondly, she had the strength to resist the heavenly moon demon spider source. Even so, she was still shocked by the golden dragon that suddenly rushed out of Xianxia's body. The audience fell silent as the bloody battle came to an abrupt end, leaving only the sound of heavy breathing. Xianxia glanced up, a strange look flashing across his face as he turned to Yin and said faintly, "Sorry, This guy seems to be very interested in your monster core. I wasn't able to suppress it. Yin's face was extremely pale as the arrogance in his eyes collapsed like a skyscraper, turning him into ruins. In this battle, Kai had completely whipped him from the inside out, from his body to his soul. Under the terrifying suppression of the dragon pressure, Yin couldn't even think about taking back his monster core. Enough! A delicate shout suddenly rang out, and the figure of a beautiful woman suddenly appeared in the void. Her sharp eyes swept over the crowd and finally fixed on the golden dragon. She took a deep breath, and her plump breasts heaved up and down exaggeratedly. Adoptive mother! Shanqing Luo and Yu Xiong hurriedly called out. Master! Bai bowed respectfully. Kai's eyes narrowed as he swept this beautiful woman with his divine sense, but was shocked to find that he couldn't see through her depths at all. She was an Origin King Realm Master. Chapter 1586. However, although you have the power of the divine dragon source, you don't seem to know how to use it, wasting such a great opportunity. Qiyu looked at Kai mockingly. That's why Yin was able to take back his monster core so easily. If not for that, he wouldn't even be alive right now. A trace of embarrassment appeared on Kai's face. This so-called divine dragon source was something he obtained from the Heaven's Cave inheritance with Su Yin when he was still in High Heaven Pavilion. Many years later, Kai learned that this was the inheritance left behind by the two founders of Tongxian Realm's Dragon Phoenix Palace. But over the years, Kai had never used it for anything. Only when he was dual cultivating with Su Yin did the golden dragon tattoo on his body become active. Qiyu saying that he had wasted such a great opportunity was not wrong. Without even mentioning that, each of the divine spirits from ancient times had a divine technique that could split the heavens and earth, each of them being the rulers of the monster race, with the dragon and phoenix being the most powerful. However, for some unknown reason, these ancient holy spirits all disappeared at a certain time. There are rumors that a great battle broke out between them, and 90% of the ancient holy spirits have fallen. There are also rumors that they have gone into hiding. As for the real situation, no one knows. After the disappearance of the ancient divine spirits, other powerful demon clans took over the dominant position. These demon clans are all known as the Ancient Mutants or the Savage Mutants. Blood Flood Dragon, Heavenly Moon Demon Spider, Nine Nether Xianxia, they all belong to this category. Although the Savage Xenogeneics only appeared after the Holy Spirits, some of the powerful Savage Xenogeneics were not inferior to the Holy Spirits, and some were even stronger. Moreover, some of these Savage variants still exist today. Of course, these are bloodlines that have been passed down from generation to generation, not really from ancient times. Yin's bloodline and Qing Luo's source both belong to Savage variants, right? Kai asked modestly. Qiyu nodded. That's why this queen said that Qing Luo's future achievements will be brighter than mine. What she has is a complete source, unlike this queen who only inherited a faint bloodline. We can be considered family. You can also say that we are family. You should understand what kind of position Qing Luo holds in this queen's heart. Junior understands. Kai nodded seriously. Let's talk about the divine spirits. Qi was very satisfied with Kai's attitude. As this queen said, just now, among the divine spirits, dragons and phoenixes, dragons and dragon race. The golden divine dragon was revered again. What you inherited is the golden divine dragon's source. Golden divine dragon. Kai's eyes narrowed. Kai, even among the divine spirits is to begin to be divine spirits now. You to the king to the heavens to the monster king spirit? Yang Kai gently nodded and suddenly smiled. Senior being able to resist this kind of temptation is truly worthy of this junior's admiration. Queen to Yang to you Yang to tease to me, S. To Yang soul, to spirit of, to S to Yangs to TB, S to you, this king, haha. Yang Kai chuckled dryly. However, this queen is also very curious as to how much of the divine dragon source you have inherited. Yu looked at Yang Kai with interest, carefully sweeping him with her divine sense, but still wearing a look of suspicion. I don't know. Yang Kai shrugged his shoulders. Oh, that's strange. So that's how it is. Yang Kai suddenly understood. No wonder time is so tight, and Senior Yu doesn't seem to be in a hurry. It turns out there is such a thing. Why else do you think me Tion and the others gathered at the palace? They all want to go to the blood prison from here. Shanqing Luo explained with a smile. Chapter 1590. A feeling of dizziness assaulted Yang Kai from all directions, as if space itself had collapsed. This was the sign of a space transmission. For Yang Kai, short-distance teleportation didn't affect him in the slightest, but this kind of ultra-long distance teleportation from one star to another was still somewhat taxing on him. Fortunately, Yang Kai was proficient in the Tao of space, so he only needed to circulate his Saint Chi slightly to dispel these negative effects. In a flash, Yang Kai found himself in a strange land. Before he had time to look around, though, he noticed the aura of a life not far away. Turning his head vigilantly, Yang Kai found that this person was actually Lai Feng from Wild Lion territory, only 1,000 meters or so away from him. The other party had arrived one step ahead of him, but from the look on his face, it was clear he had not yet recovered from the transmission. Lai Feng did not have the Tao of space like Yang Kai did, so he naturally could not recover from the negative effects of this transmission as quickly as Yang Kai did. But he was still a rising star of the monster race, and his strength had already reached the third-order origin returning realm. After about 3 breaths, he suddenly opened his eyes, and just like Yang Kai, he vigilantly scanned the surroundings while secretly circulating his Saint Chi, preparing to deal with any possible crisis. In the next moment, he saw Yang Kai, who was 1,000 meters away. Oh! Lai Feng showed a look of surprise as he stood in place, and thought for a moment before his figure flickered and he arrived in front of Yang Kai, asking with a smile, "I heard your name is Yang Kai." Yang Kai nodded lightly, his attitude neither warm nor cold. "I also heard that you taught Xuelian a lesson." Lai Feng seemed to be very interested in him. Yang Kai did not answer. Lai Feng shrugged his shoulders. "I heard about it from you, Xiong. It's a pity I couldn't get to Red Moon territory earlier, otherwise I would have been able to watch the fun. Haha, I won't lie to you, I don't like that Xuelian guy, but it's quite surprising you were able to teach him a lesson. The human race really can't be underestimated. I think I can invite you." "Why did you invite me?" Yang Kai looked at him suspiciously. The other party acted like they were close friends, and his attitude was also quite amiable, so Yang Kai didn't feel any ill will towards him. "I'm inviting you to join me." Lai Feng smiled. Brother Yang, you also know that this is Green Mountain Star. My monster race cultivator has come here, so he definitely won't be treated well. Looking around, it seems that there are only me and Brother Yang here, so if we can join forces, our safety will be greatly improved. Sorry, I'm not interested. Yang Kai shook his head and refused. Why? Lai Feng frowned. Because I'm a human. I won't be treated differently here. Yang Kai pointed at himself and then at Lai Feng. You're from the Yao clan. Do you think someone who hates the Yao clan would attack me as well if they saw me with you? I don't want to look for trouble. Lai Feng scratched his head in surprise and said, What you said is reasonable. Since Brother Yang says so, then forget it. This Lai Feng didn't consider it thoroughly. Yang Kai gently nodded. Then I wish Brother Yang good luck. This one will take his leave first. Lai Feng didn't seem to be annoyed by Yang Kai's rejection of his invitation and simply chuckled before picking a random direction and hurrying off. He was very straightforward. After he left, Yang Kai released his divine sense and carefully probed his surroundings. After a while, his expression changed, and he quickly took back his divine sense. The information provided by Xianxia Luo was not wrong. In the blood prison, it was not suitable to release one's divine sense casually to investigate anything. Although there were no restrictions on divine sense here, in this special ancient battlefield, there were countless territory vortexes. These territory vortexes were left behind by the battles between Origin King realm masters tens of thousands of years ago. Some had already dissipated, while others had transformed over the course of time, becoming even more terrifying. These territory vortexes were strong enough to swallow anything, including divine sense. Yang Kai had suffered a small loss just now, and if he had not taken back his divine sense in time, he would have been seriously injured in an instant. Even so, at this moment, he felt a tingling pain in his head, as if it was being pricked by a needle. This was a sign that his soul had been damaged, but with the seven-colored soul-warming lotus nourishing his soul, Yang Kai didn't care too much about this damage. It seems that we've really arrived at the blood prison. Yang Kai looked around and muttered to himself. Only in the blood prison could such strange territory vortexes exist. The previous generation's tribal lord Qi was truly a genius, being able to create a cross-cultivation star-space array that connected the blood prison and monster star. Unfortunately, because the distance was too great, it was impossible to accurately pinpoint his location, so Yang Kai only found Lai Feng nearby. The other monster race rookies had all been teleported somewhere else. Yang Kai was quite confident in Xianxia Luo's strength. In any case, she had inherited the source of the heavenly moon demon spider, so an ordinary cultivator in the same realm was not her opponent. In addition, he had given her the Thunder Fire Seven Birds Whip, which could greatly improve her combat power. The only troublesome thing was her bewitching appearance, which may be the main reason for her troubles. Few men could resist her bewitching appearance. After thinking about it for a while, Yang Kai slowly shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Qing Luo had her own path to walk, and Yang Kai felt that he could not always take care of her. After not seeing her for so many years, she was still alive and well, so he believed that she would be able to move forward smoothly in the future. Choosing a direction at random, Yang Kai slowly flew forward. He did not dare to move too quickly. He had only heard about the strangeness of the blood prison and had never personally experienced it, but this place was the burial ground of a third-order origin returning realm master. There was no doubt about it. Yang Kai was invincible against anyone below the Origin King realm, but when facing an Origin King's territory, he had to be careful. He did not want to die before he had even begun his journey. Along the way, Yang Kai did not encounter too many setbacks. Instead, there were a few remaining territory vortexes in the blood prison that Yang Kai studied with great interest. Unfortunately, these territory vortexes were not too strong, and the mysteries they contained were vague. Yang Kai tried to probe them with his divine sense, but after studying them for a long time, he did not gain much and could only give up. However, Yang Kai did not lower his guard because of this. He knew that there were countless murderous intents hidden here, so he could not underestimate the blood prison just because of a few weak territory vortexes. Along the way, Yonkai also felt several life auras and even saw a third-order origin returning realm cultivator pass by a few thousand meters away. Fortunately, the blood prison had just opened, so no one was willing to take the initiative to provoke him. Everyone still maintained a rational state of mind and avoided conflict as much as possible. So when Yonkai felt a few auras, he took the initiative to avoid them. A day later, Yonkai stood in an open space with a dignified expression, staring straight ahead at a certain spot 1,000 meters away. There, a middle-aged man in a blue robe was bathed in blood, the Saint Chi pulsing from his body, flickering as if he was in a very difficult situation. Around his body was a defensive artifact that looked like a water curtain. He was constantly releasing his sure and performing various secret techniques in an attempt to escape from this place. However, none of his attempts had much effect. The space around him seemed to be calm, but it was as if it had frozen solid, imprisoning the middle-aged man. No matter how hard he tried, he was unable to move. In the void, streams of light constantly shuttled back and forth, like sharp swords, cut through the defensive artifact around the middle-aged man's body, wearing down its power. This man had accidentally rushed into a territory vortex. What's more, this was a very powerful territory vortex that could easily imprison a third-order origin returning Realm Master. The middle-aged man's expression was extremely panicked as he felt the call of death, pushing his Saint Chi harder and harder. Suddenly, he saw Yonkai staring at him from not far away and couldn't help his eyes lighting up, as if he had grasped a life-saving straw, shouting loudly, "Friend, please help me. This one was accidentally caught in this territory vortex and can't escape. Please help me, friend." Yonkai frowned but didn't respond. Although Yonkai wasn't afraid of this middle-aged man, the vortex in his territory made him unable to extricate himself. For a stranger, Yonkai naturally wouldn't put himself in danger. Yonkai had only stayed here to comprehend the mysteries of the vortex in his territory. Seeing that Yonkai didn't respond, the middle-aged man couldn't help becoming anxious, thinking that the other party was cold-blooded and ruthless and wouldn't help him. So he quickly shouted, "Friend, this one is Scarlet Wave Star's Blue Feather Sect Master, Su Dingyang. Please help me. If you can escape, this Su will give you a generous gift, and Blue Feather Sect will be grateful." Scarlet Wave Star? Yonkai's expression changed. He had vaguely heard of this star before, but he couldn't remember where he had heard of it for a while. Slowly shaking his head, he said, "Friend, it's not that I don't want to save you. It's just that the power of this vortex in my territory is somewhat frightening." Su Dingyang's face darkened. Although he showed a look of unwillingness, he knew that Yonkai was telling the truth. For a moment, he was left speechless. "Hold on, I'll see if I can find a way," Yonkai said lightly. He wasn't really trying to save this man out of kindness. Without even mentioning Su Dingyang's personality, Yonkai knew nothing about him. Even if he was a kind person, since he had entered the blood prison, he should have been prepared to die. If he died here, he couldn't blame anyone. Yonkai said this because he wanted to explore the vortex in his territory. He wanted to gain a deeper understanding of the power of an Origin King's territory. Even if this king is the Star Master of Green Mountain Star, his divine sense is greatly restricted there. He rushed into a whirlpool within the territory of Green Mountain Star. The old woman sighed slightly. "It looks like he's dead. There are always some people in this world who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. This kind of person should be taught a lesson. Forget it. There's no need to pay attention to him. He won't be able to live much longer." Let's wait a few days and see if there are any good seedlings who come out alive. And it happens once every 1,000 years. Didn't we all come to Green Mountain Star for that day? Hearing this, Luo Hai smiled and said, "Everyone, this king knows your purpose for coming here, but please allow this king to remind you that if you see any good seedlings, do not force them. Everything is up to their own free will. As the Star Master of Green Mountain Star, this king has an obligation and responsibility to protect these little ones and ensure they receive fair treatment." Brother Luo Hai is too polite. After so many years, when have we ever forced anyone? Of course, it's all up to them. The beautiful woman pursed her lips and smiled tenderly. "I don't want them. This old master came here just to buy territory stones. Haha, those little guys can go grab them themselves." A white-haired old man chuckled meaningfully before saying with some unwillingness, "If it weren't for Brother Luo Hai forbidding me, this old master would have personally gone to the blood prison to look for territory stones." Brother Zhou is mistaken. Luo Hai shook his head. "It's not that this king forbids you. It's just that this blood prison has a barrier placed down by the previous Star Master of Green Mountain Star before his death, preventing any Origin King from entering. Even though this king has become the new Star Master of Green Mountain Star, he cannot remove this barrier. Perhaps in a few 1,000 years, when this king's strength breaks through to the Third Order Origin King realm, he will be able to ignore this barrier." The previous Star Master placed a barrier? Everyone was shocked, as if they had never heard of such a thing before. And this king has never publicized this matter, but it is a fact. Otherwise, why do you think no one left the blood prison after the Great War 10,000 years ago? Is it the restriction of that layer of restriction? Someone revealed a thoughtful expression. That barrier was placed using the source strength of Green Mountain Star, and not only did it prevent Origin Kings from entering, it also prevented them from leaving. Luo Hai gently nodded. No wonder more than 20 masters with similar cultivation to us didn't come out alive. So it was for this reason, the man who asked suddenly realized. There were many doubts about the Great War 10,000 years ago, but the biggest one was that no one survived. Even if that battle was unprecedented and there were a huge number of Origin Kings involved, it was reasonable to say that it was impossible for all of them to be wiped out. At the very least, there should have been a few survivors. But in fact, the history books recorded that no one had survived. Now, after listening to Luo Hai's explanation, everyone understood. Green Mountain's star's source strength had been used to place this barrier, and without the Star Master lifting it, the other Origin Kings were indeed unable to leave. The final result may have been that the previous Star Master was heavily outnumbered and dragged his enemies down with him. After learning the truth about the birth of the blood prison, everyone fell silent for a while. The sun set and the moon rose, and 3 days passed in a flash. Luo Hai suddenly let out a soft cry as his face filled with surprise. "Master Luo Hai, what interesting thing did you find?" The old woman frowned and asked. "Interesting, very interesting indeed." Luo Hai raised his brow, his face filled with surprise as he quickly said, "That little guy actually walked out of the vortex in his territory." "What?" The old woman was shocked. "Brother Luo Hai, are you talking about that little second-order Origin returning realm brat?" The beautiful woman was also shocked. This is really interesting. How did he survive?" Luo Hai asked suspiciously. Even though he was the Star Master of Green Mountain Star, he could not explore the situation inside the blood prison clearly. So he was very surprised that Xianxia was able to survive. Could it be that the vortex in his territory was very weak? Someone speculated, there are countless vortexes in the blood prison, some of them not even worth mentioning. What he encountered should have been one of those vortexes, right? Impossible. Before him, a third-order Origin returning realm master died in that vortex in his territory. So this vortex was definitely not weak. Luo Hai slowly shook his head, denying the man's guess. He and Xianxia had met by chance and had no friendship, nor had he ever agreed to his request. Of course, Xianxia wouldn't go to Scarlet Wave Star to inform Blue Feather Sect for a stranger. If fate wills it, we'll talk about it later. Looking up and identifying the direction, Xianxia walked forward. The blood prison was different from the places Xianxia had gone to in the past. Whether it was the Luyin Desert on Shadowed Star or the Emperor Garden in the Great Emperor's courtyards, the space inside was extremely wide and there were many restrictions, so even if many people entered, they rarely had the opportunity to meet. But the blood prison was different. Although the blood prison covered a very large area, because it had existed for tens of thousands of years and was famous enough to attract countless third-order origin returning realm masters from all over the star territory, Xianxia often encountered strangers along the way. Most people didn't like looking for trouble, so when they noticed the aura of strangers, they would take the initiative to avoid conflict. However, when they noticed that Xianxia was only a second-order origin returning realm cultivator, they all showed looks of shock before quickly turning to despise him, casting sympathetic looks towards Xianxia's position, as if he would immediately die. Xianxia naturally didn't pay attention to them. He had encountered several life or death battles between cultivators. The great forces in the star territory weren't harmonious either. Many of them had their own conflicts and grievances, so now that they met in the blood prison, it was natural for them to start fighting. Xianxia didn't get involved in any of this, and instead just searched for the vortexes in his territory, hoping to obtain greater benefits from them and improve his comprehension of Sure. His cautiousness brought him peace. Since entering the blood prison half a month ago, Xianxia hadn't had any conflicts with anyone. He had encountered 3 powerful vortexes in his territory, risking his life to enter them, and in the end, emerged safely from each of them with great gains. Xianxia's Sure was growing at a terrifying speed, having already surpassed the minor accomplishment realm and was moving towards the grand accomplishment realm. However, to his disappointment, he couldn't find the specialty of the blood prison, the territory stone. The birth of the territory stone was inseparable from the existence of a territory. The remnant power of a territory that had existed in the blood prison for countless years had been absorbed by some peculiar jade in the blood prison, and after countless years of evolution, it had formed the special territory stone. Therefore, the territory stone generally existed in the vortexes in a territory, and if one wanted to obtain a territory stone, they had to break into a territory vortex. Therefore, where there was a territory stone, there must be a territory vortex. Xianxia felt that his luck wasn't very good. Chapter 1594. Just as Xuesun's thoughts were running wild, the 2 people chasing her suddenly landed a few dozen meters in front of her. One was a man and one was a woman. The man had fair skin and oily hair, but the powerful aura radiating from him was not to be underestimated. The woman was dressed coquettishly, wearing heavy makeup and revealing clothes that exposed her snow-white thighs and arms, attracting the eyes of the man. Her pair of peach blossom eyes were filled with lust, giving her a seductive appearance. Landing on the ground, the woman glanced at Xianxia, and her beautiful eyes lit up, showing a look of interest as she giggled, and said to the man next to her, "Brother, this guy's figure is very good. Does Junior's sister like him?" The man didn't seem to care at all, and instead looked at Xianxia with interest before nodding. "His figure is really good. He's really your type." Saying so, in front of Xianxia and Xuesun, he pinched the seductive woman's buttocks and grinned wickedly. "Junior sister, are you tempted?" "Brother." The woman hesitated for a moment before her pretty face became flushed. "Junior sister and the other men are just playing around. With you, Junior sister is truly in love." "Brother knows." The man grinned meaningfully. Xianxia and Xuesun were dumbfounded as they watched this scene. Although Xuesun was from the monster race and had inherited some of their bold and unrestrained nature, she really couldn't stand such a scene, and the lewd atmosphere exuding from the words of this man and woman made her want to vomit. "He's not a good thing." Xianxia glanced at Xuesun and frowned. "Is this guy chasing after you because of your beauty?" Xuesun heard this. Glaring fiercely at Xianxia, she ground her teeth and said, "Enough with your sarcasm." Xianxia chuckled meaningfully, seeing them acting so fearless and indifferent. the man and woman chasing them were a little surprised. The man took a serious look at Xianxia and couldn't help sneering. A second-order origin returning realm boy actually dares to come to the blood prison? This is quite interesting. Junior sister, this guy's courage is quite big. I like bold men. The seductive woman stuck out her tongue and licked her red lips, a look of interest on Xianxia's face. The expression on her face became more and more amorous. As she swayed her waist, her curves were even more captivating. Good. Then this man is yours, the man nodded, pointing to Xue's son. This dragon lady is mine. Senior brother has lived for so many years. He had never played with such a high-level demon before. And I'm sure I'll enjoy myself. Demoness, did you come all the way here hoping that this guy would save your life? I advise you to surrender obediently without a fight. As long as you cooperate, I won't make things too difficult for you. Instead, I'll make you happy. What do you think? He asked casually, as if he was certain Xue's son and Xianxia would win. A dog's mouth can't spit out ivory. Xue's son coldly snorted and shouted, I'll leave this woman to you. This man is mine. Can we exchange? I don't like to kill women. Xianxia looked at her, but before he could finish his words, Xue's son had already rushed out, her monster chi surging fiercely and enveloping the man in a gust of wind. In an instant, Xue's son and the man exchanged blows, leaving Xianxia and the seductive woman staring at each other. Little brother, did you just say you wanted to kill me? The seductive woman didn't seem to be worried about her brother, and instead looked at Xianxia with interest. Xianxia grinned. How could I be willing to kill a woman like you? The woman was startled for a moment before giggling, looking at Xianxia charmingly and saying, Since you're unwilling, how about we find a place to talk? Little brother looks so young. Elder sister can't bear to embarrass you. Chapter 1595. It wasn't that the man's strength was inferior to Xue's son's, but in a one-on-one fight, the two were actually on par. Even if Xue's son was stronger, she wouldn't be able to kill her opponent on her own. However, Xianxia's lightning-fast battle had greatly shocked the man. The seductive woman's screams and cries for help before she died had disturbed his concentration, making it impossible for him to face the enemy with his full strength. What's more, Xianxia was still standing not far away, glaring at him, causing the man to become more and more uneasy. He couldn't understand how his junior sister had died in just a few breaths of time. He was well aware of his junior sister's strength, which was similar to his own, so how could she have died at the hands of a second-order origin returning realm cultivator in such a short time? He was completely shocked and had no idea what had happened between his junior sister and this young man. The fear of the unknown made him lose his ability to fight, so how could he display his full strength? Xue's son naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity and vented all her anger from being chased all the way here, using all kinds of artifacts and secret techniques unique to the monster race to the fullest. The man was completely suppressed, and the battle became one-sided. Obviously, he didn't want to sit still and wait for death. He hurriedly bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood essence to cast a powerful secret technique, blocking the snow falcon for a moment. Then, his figure turned into an afterimage and suddenly disappeared. He decided to retreat, not daring to continue entangling with Xue's Sunday. Before leaving, though, he glanced over at Xianxia and found that this unfathomable young man was just standing in place, seemingly having no intention of stopping him, allowing him to breathe a sigh of relief. Just when he thought he had escaped death, the space around him suddenly became viscous. His figure came to a halt involuntarily as his eyes shrank, and he shouted in horror, Sure. He was also a third-order origin returning realm master, so he naturally knew the mysteries and effects of Sure, so he stepped into this viscous space. He knew he had fallen into a powerful Sure. The power of this Sure was much thicker than his own, so powerful that it made him tremble. Moreover, this Sure seemed to be mixed with some other strange force. Not daring to be careless, He hurriedly released his own force to resist it, but it was only able to recover a little of his freedom. It was impossible to escape from this situation in a short period of time. A silhouette entered his eyes. He raised his head and exclaimed, "How could you be here?" At this moment, he was shocked to find that Yang Kai, who was supposed to be watching the battle from afar, was actually standing not far from him. However, he didn't notice the other party's movements at all. "Why can't I be here?" Yang Kai grinned and gradually increased the power of his Shi. The man who fell into it was immediately drenched in sweat, and it was difficult for him to move. Chi-chi! Soft sounds came from all directions. The man looked around and found that the space around him seemed to be collapsing. Strange, pitch-black cracks the size of a cow's hair appeared one after another. Disappear. His liver and gall were torn apart. He never knew that someone's potential could cause such an unimaginable effect on space. At this moment, he finally understood that it was not an accident that his junior sister died so quickly. This second-order origin-returning realm young man was his most terrifying enemy. Without giving the man a chance to resist, Yang Kai flicked his fingers and sent out a dozen pitch-black space blades one after another. These space blades easily shattered the man's Saint Chi and defensive artifact before cutting his body into several pieces and banishing most of his flesh and blood into the void. That's right, Dragon Lady. You think you have the ability to kill Brother Li and his brother and sister? You overestimate yourself, the third man sneered, obviously thinking Shui-san was talking nonsense. Believe it or not, it's up to you. Shui-san didn't want to explain any further, simply grit her teeth and declared, "Those two are dead. It will be your turn next." The white-haired old man was startled, and then he burst into laughter. "Demon girl, you're so arrogant, and your tone is even bigger than the sky." Good. I'm currently in the domain vortex, and it's inconvenient for me to move. So, I'll let you make irresponsible remarks. If you really have the ability, then I'll have a good fight with you after I get out of here. Yang Kai closed his eyes and began perceiving the mysterious fluctuations around him, comprehending the mysteries of his territory. Seeing this scene, the old man finally breathed a sigh of relief. If Yang Kai really walked to the center step by step without stopping to take the territory stone, he would probably vomit blood. Fortunately, although this kid was a little strange, he didn't really ignore the whirlpool in his territory. He also had to comprehend the mysteries in it before he could walk to the deepest part. He still had a chance. The old man's eyes burst with light as he suddenly got up, ignoring the huge burden on his body, and moved forward a distance. Seeing this, the other two also didn't want to be outdone and also moved forward a distance. The closer to the center of the whirlpool in the territory, the stronger the power and the greater the pressure on the cultivator. If they couldn't resist, the final result would be to be killed by the territory. Therefore, when the cultivator was comprehending the mysteries in the whirlpool and the territory, they would generally act according to their ability and not be greedy. Otherwise, they would be courting death. Before Yang Kai's arrival, the old man and the other two were prepared to advance to the center step by step and slowly walk to the territory stone. They also had this confidence. However, Yang Kai's arrival and strange behavior made them feel the danger. They realized that if they didn't speed up, the territory stone would be handed over to someone else. The surrounding territory of the chaotic territory made it so that no one dared to make a move on others. Otherwise, it was very likely that it would cause a backlash and they would be asking for trouble. If not for this, the old man and the other two would have joined forces to kill Yang Kai first. The battle now was about who could walk to the center of the whirlpool and take the territory stone first. With the treasure in front of them, no one would show weakness. Outside the whirlpool, Shui-san's beautiful eyes glowed as she stared at Yang Kai's back. She was greatly shocked. This guy didn't stop at all and directly walked to within 300 feet of the whirlpool in the territory. Every step Yang Kai took was like a 10,000-kilogram sledgehammer that smashed into Shui Sun's heart, making it difficult for her to breathe. She was sent by Fierce Crab Tribal Lord to participate in the Blood Prison Trial, which meant that she was the strongest origin returning realm master in Fierce Crab territory. The importance of Fierce Crab Tribal Lord and the respect and admiration of those in the same realm gave her the capital to be proud of herself. She had never taken other origin returning realm masters seriously. But today, she finally put away her arrogant thoughts. Yang Kai's performance made her realize that she was still not good enough as an origin returning realm master. In this realm, there was still someone who looked down on her. Gritting her teeth, Shui Sun also pushed her sure and stepped into the whirlpool in the territory. As soon as she entered, Shui Sun's tender body trembled slightly. All around her, an invisible and terrifying pressure forced her monster chi to circulate madly, forcing her to resist it. She struggled to take a step forward, following Yang Kai's footsteps step by step. After less than 5 meters into the whirlpool, Shui Sun was unable to move. Looking up at Yang Kai, Shui Sun suddenly discovered that in this extremely short period of time, this guy had actually moved forward again. How did he do it? Shui Sun couldn't understand. After spending less than half a day with Yang Kai, her pride and self-confidence had been completely shattered. She found that she couldn't compare with this human at all. Shui Yin and Mi Tian were also no match. On Monster Star, all the tribal lord-level masters present. Their evaluation of Shui Yin and Mi Tian was extremely high, believing that these two rookies were likely to break through to the Origin King realm and become tribal lord-level existences. If Shui Yin and Mi Tian had a great chance of breaking through to the Origin King realm, then Shui Sun was certain. Yang Kai could definitely break through to the Origin King realm, just based on his current excellent performance. This showed that his control over Shur had reached a level that made all Origin returning realm masters feel inferior. He may have also comprehended the mysteries of the tribal territory. For the first time, Shui Sun felt awe towards another origin returning realm master. The figure in front of her was like an unattainable mountain. She could only look up to him. Impossible. This is impossible. The one-eyed man's shout reached everyone's ears as he stared in the direction of Yang Kai with trembling eyes, watching him walk towards the center of the whirlpool step by step as if he was walking on flat ground. Even if he paused occasionally, it wouldn't take long for him to take another step. The powerful tribal territory vortex seemed unable to stop him at all. The one-eyed man's eyes were blank and his face was dull, shocked by Yang Kai's actions. "Calm down," the white-haired old man suddenly shouted. "This little brat is indeed a bit strange, but we started earlier than him. He is still behind us in terms of distance, so we may have a chance. In any case, we can't let this little brat succeed." Hearing this, the one-eyed man seemed to recover, took a deep breath, and nodded heavily. "I understand. Is that so?" Yang Kai suddenly grinned and glanced over at the white-haired old man. "Am I behind you in terms of distance? Take a look again and calculate it carefully." As soon as these words fell, Yang Kai, who had been standing in place for a long time, suddenly stepped forward lightly. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, without any intention of stopping. Yang Kai continued forward with unstoppable momentum, approaching the center of the territory stones at an extremely fast speed. The old man was stunned, the one-eyed man was stunned, and the third person was also stunned. Shui Sun cried out in alarm, covering her red lips with her small hand as she stared in the direction of Yang Kai in a daze. Yang Kai seemed to have suddenly understood something and wrapped himself in Shur, repelling all the territory stones, allowing him to pass through without any hindrance. He easily arrived at the center of the tribal territory. The 3 old men looked panicked and were at a loss. At this moment, they didn't know what to do. If it were any other place, they would definitely go all out and join forces to stop Yang Kai. But inside the tribal territory vortex, they could only watch helplessly, unable to do anything. Their faces became ashen and filled with resentment. Suddenly, the old man's eyes lit up, as if he had discovered something extraordinary. Whether it was the monster race masters who had come here for Monster Star, or Qian Tong and the others who had stayed on Green Mountain Star, Yang Kai did not meet any of them. Yang Kai did not know whether Qian Tong and the others had entered the blood prison or not, but the main reason they had stayed on Green Mountain Star at that time was because of this, so it was unlikely they would miss such a grand event. They should have come in, but Yang Kai did not know where they were. Occasionally, when he had some free time, Yang Kai would take out his communication artifact and pour his divine sense into it, hoping to contact Qian Tong and the others. Unfortunately, after so many days, there was no response from his communication artifact. On this day, Yang Kai was sitting cross-legged in a secluded place, recovering his energy and taking out his communication artifact to investigate. He did not have much hope, but when he poured his divine sense into it, he could not help smiling and quickly began to investigate. Qian Tong had actually responded. What's more, he was actually summoning his companions to his location. Yang Kai seemed to have discovered something incredible. Senior sister, Lei doesn't need to belittle yourself. Who can say for sure? Perhaps one day, Senior Sister Lei will be blessed with good fortune and break through to the Second Order Origin King realm. The beautiful woman comforted. Although there were many frictions between the great forces in the Star Territory as Origin Kings, there was more or less some friendship between them. So it wasn't a big deal for the old woman to offer some casual words of comfort. I hope so. The old woman forced a smile. The old woman smiled reluctantly, but suddenly frowned and said with a worried look, however, although the appearance of a stone mountain in our territory is a happy event, I'm afraid it will be a much more difficult test for those little brats. This old woman fought a life and death battle in order to compete for a good position back then and almost died. This time, I'm afraid many of them will die. Whether it's a blessing or a curse will depend on their own good fortune. It's useless for us to worry here. The old man from Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce slowly shook his head. That's true. By the way, Master Luo Hai, that second-order origin returning realm brat, how is he doing right now? Is he dead or alive? The old woman suddenly remembered Yang Kai and asked. Everyone turned their attention to Luo Hai, seemingly very interested in Yang Kai. Luo Hai smiled lightly and said, he's still alive. This king can feel his vitality. He's still alive. The old woman was overjoyed. Great, this old woman was really afraid his luck would be bad and he would be killed by that powerful guy. It seems his luck is much better than this old woman's. I'm really looking forward to the day he walks out of the blood prison. This old woman wants to see if this little brat really has 3 heads and 6 arms. He definitely doesn't have 3 heads and 6 arms. He's just courageous. Luo Hai suddenly fell silent, his brow furrowing as he tried to sense his surroundings. Soon, a look of surprise appeared on his face. Master Luo Hai, could he have encountered some kind of trouble? The beautiful woman from Purple Star asked nervously. No one wanted to see Kai Yang get into trouble or even die. They all regarded Yang Kai as a rising star of their force, and were all prepared to wait for him to emerge from the blood prison before offering extremely generous conditions to win him over. He hasn't encountered any trouble, but this king thinks he's looking for trouble. Luo Hai said in a strange tone. What do you mean? The old woman asked nervously. He's actually heading towards the stone mountain in our territory. Luo Hai's expression became extremely strange. Everyone was shocked. Why would he go in the direction of the stone mountain in our territory? The old woman asked with a look of disappointment. That little brat is simply courting death. How could he possibly go there? If he were to be involved in some kind of dispute. This little guy is really too troublesome. The beautiful Purple Star woman sighed with a helpless look on her face. Nearly 100 people had surrounded almost the entire stone mountain in the territory. Although there was still some open space left, there was a steady stream of cultivator who had heard the news and rushed here from all directions. It was not hard to imagine that these open spaces would eventually be occupied by the cultivator groups. Those who came late and didn't get a good position would definitely challenge the weaker groups and forcibly occupy the advantageous positions. On the left side of the stone mountain in the territory, 3 third-order origin returning realm cultivator had gathered. Of the 3, 2 were known to Xianxia, Qiantong, and the beautiful woman from Star Emperor Mountain, Lin Yu Rao, while the other was someone Xianxia had never met before. At this moment, the 3 of them were secretly circulating their Saint Qi, holding their most powerful artifacts in their hands as they vigilantly scanned their surroundings. The 3 of them had arrived early, so the positions they occupied were not bad. But as the number of cultivator groups continued to increase, some of them were already eyeing them with malicious intent, as if they were contemplating whether or not to attack the 3 of them and drive them away. If the 3 of them had not displayed enough strength, they would definitely not have been able to protect their territory. However, continuing to be vigilant was not a solution. The stone mountain had already appeared in the territory, and the powerful and numerous groups had already begun to comprehend the mysteries of the territory. If the 3 of them continued to delay like this, the gains would not make up for the losses. The 3 of them were intent on comprehending the mysteries of the stone mountain, but they did not dare to lower their guard. Chapter 1599. Elder Qian, Elder Yang, Elder Mo, and the others, have they responded? Among the 3, an old man in a brown robe looked around from time to time and asked Qiantong in a low voice. Not yet. Qiantong shook his head slowly and replied worriedly, I don't know where they went. My communication artifact can't contact them at all. What about Vice City Lord Ning? Have you contacted him yet? The old man sighed. I can't contact him either. I don't know where Brother Ning went. The 2 looked at each other and saw the anxiety and helplessness in each other's eyes. The old man was the city lord of Green Mountain's Star's Greenwater City. When Xianxia left Green Mountain Star and returned to Tongxian Realm, Qiantong and his group of 5 stayed behind to prepare to participate in the blood prison trial a few years later. The city lord of Greenwater City was also very good at dealing with people. After learning that Qiantong and the others had arrived, he tried his best to invite them to serve as Greenwater City's honored guest elders. Qiantong and the others did not want to cause any misunderstandings and also needed a place to settle down, so they readily agreed. Over the past few years, everyone got along quite well, and there were no gaps or frictions between them. As soon as the blood prison trial opened, they entered the blood prison with the old man and the Vice City Lord surnamed Ning. Everyone here was a third-order origin returning realm master and had entered this place to comprehend the mysteries of their territory in hopes of prying into the mysteries of the Origin King realm. Of course, it was impossible for all 7 of them to travel together. As such, everyone dispersed. A few days ago, when the old man heard the news of a stone mountain appearing in his territory, he immediately used his communication artifact to contact his companions, but only Qiantong and Lin Yu Rao had arrived. Yang Xiuzhu, Chuhan Yi, MOU of Clear Sky Sect, and Green Water City's Vice City Lord Ning had not responded. Seeing that more and more people were arriving, Qiantong and the others were naturally anxious. Without absolute strength and numbers, it was impossible to keep the territory they occupied at the moment. Not far away, a cultivator who had just arrived failed to grab a good spot and was looking over with ill intentions. However, there were too few of them, only 2, so they naturally did not act rashly. However, they were also constantly pouring their divine senses into the communication compass, as if they were trying to establish contact with someone. Once they called for help, the situation would be dire. Elder Lin, is there a response from your side? The elderly man turned his expectant gaze to Lin Yu Rao. The latter slowly shook her head, her beautiful eyes filled with worry. No, what should we do? The elderly man was anxious and uneasy. An enormous opportunity was right in front of him, yet he had no time or opportunity to comprehend it. He could only wait here, and this was even more unbearable than killing him. Wait for another half a day, just another half a day. If Elder Yang and the others still don't come, we will leave. The elderly man gritted his teeth and said in a low voice. Although the appearance of the stone mountain in his territory was a heaven-sent opportunity, He did not want to lose his life here. The stone mountain in his territory was still stable for the time being, but he believed that it would not be long before this place became chaotic. There would definitely be many cultivator fighting over the position. Leave. Qiantong's expression became gloomy as his eyes filled with unwillingness. No one wanted to pry into the mysteries of the Origin King realm more than him from Shadowed Star. Zhao Tianze stared at Yang Kai in a daze, his expression extremely strange. Since Yang Kai appeared, Zhao Tianze had been scrutinizing him. After all, the previous conversation between Qiantong and Lin Yu Rao had greatly elevated Yang Kai's strength and status, causing Zhao Tianze to have high expectations for Yang Kai's arrival. Zhao Tianze thought that this person was a peak third-order origin returning realm master. He thought that this person would definitely be much stronger than Qiantong and Lin Yu Rao. But as soon as they met, Zhao Tianze realized that something was wrong. The person who had come was actually a young man, but that wasn't all, and the aura fluctuations coming from this person were actually only second-order origin returning realm. Zhao Tianze almost thought he was seeing things and repeatedly swept Yang Kai with his divine sense, only confirming that this person was really just a second-order origin returning realm cultivator. Zhao Tianze was so depressed he almost coughed up blood. Chapter 1600. The greater the expectations, the greater the disappointment. At this moment, Zhao Tianze finally understood what Qiantong meant when he said that a person could not be judged by their appearance. So this was what he was referring to. What could a mere second-order origin returning realm cultivator do? Even if he had the ability to fight above his realm, it was impossible for him to change the current situation. His arrival would not be of much help to the overall situation. It could only be said that they had gained an extra helper. Zhao Tianze's mood suddenly became depressed. However, he was still a city lord and had a good relationship with Qiantong, Lin Yu Rao, and the others, so, of course, he could not show his disappointment too obviously. Putting a smile on his face, Zhao Tian cupped his fists and greeted. This Zhao greets Sect Master Yang. Sect Master Yang. Sure enough, you are young and promising. This praise was obviously insincere, and anyone could hear it. Yang Kai spoke politely and naturally did not make a fuss. Qiantong and Lin Yu Rao exchanged a glance, but did not explain too much. They were well aware of Yang Kai's strength. It could be said that Yang Kai alone was equivalent to several third-order origin returning realm cultivators. This gave him the confidence to stay in this place. Oh, the second-order origin returning realm cultivator actually came here. He actually managed to survive in the blood prison for so long. His luck is quite good. But his luck is about to run out. I bet he won't live past today. He really doesn't know life from death. Actually running so close to our territory's stone mountain. This little brat is really stupid. Not only did he fail to provide any help to his companions, but he also exposed the weakness of their team. Just watch, they're finished. Whispers suddenly rang out all around as countless cultivators stared at Yang Kai with a playful look on their faces, as if they were looking at some kind of rare treasure. Around the stone mountain in the territory, there were hundreds of origin returning realm masters, all of them third order. Yang Kai, a mere second-order cultivator, suddenly stood out from the crowd and naturally attracted everyone's attention. Yang Kai was unperturbed and didn't care about the clamor of those people. On the contrary, Zhao Tianze's expression became more and more uneasy. Originally, with him, Qiantong, and Lin Yu Rao here, even if some people were eyeing them covetously, they could still rely on their momentum to stabilize the situation. But as soon as Yang Kai arrived, their position immediately became the focus of attention. Divine senses swept towards them and powerful auras pressed down on them, causing Yang Kai to feel somewhat uneasy. The arrival of this young man, named Yang Kai, seemed to have made their situation even more difficult. He looked left and right, and sweat gradually appeared on his forehead. Yang Kai, There seems to be something wrong with these two. They've been staring at us. Qian Tong leaned over to Yang Kai and whispered, gesturing to the side as he spoke. Following his gaze, Yang Kai looked over and found two third-order origin returning realm cultivator standing not far away, constantly glancing towards them. Seeing Yang Kai's gaze, one of them did not avoid meeting his gaze and sneered. The other person was holding a communication compass in his hand and seemed to be communicating with someone. I know. Yang Kai nodded lightly, a trace of suspicion flashing across his face. He vaguely felt that the clothes these two were wearing were somewhat familiar, as if he had seen them somewhere before. However, Yang Kai had lived on Shadowed Star all this time and rarely interacted with Cultivator from other stars, so he couldn't remember when he had seen them. Was it in the Emperor Garden? Yang Kai thought secretly. Only when the Emperor Garden was open did he have frequent contact with Cultivator from other stars. By the way, where is this place? What is this huge territory stone? Why are there so many people gathered here? Yang Kai withdrew his gaze and asked curiously. He had sensed Qian Tong's summons and hurried here. As for the stone mountains in the territory, he knew nothing about them. This is a stone mountain in the territory, Qian Tong replied. We only just learned that there is such a thing in the blood prison. As for the specific situation, I'll have to ask Brother Zhao to explain it to you. He knows more about it. Then I'll have to trouble City Lord Zhao. Yang Kai cupped his fists to Zhao Tianze. Sect Master Yang is too polite. Zhao Tianze laughed dryly. Zhao Tianze let out a hollow laugh. Although he was still a little uneasy, it wasn't a problem for him to explain the mysteries of the lower territory stone mountains to Yang Kai. Hearing him say this, Kai Yang's interest was piqued. So, the probability of a stone mountain appearing in the territory is very small. That's only natural. Out of the 10 blood prison trials, Domain Stone Mountain may only appear once. Apart from that, it is enveloped by an extremely terrifying domain all year round, making it impossible for anyone to approach. Zhao Tianze nodded. Has no one ever thought about taking it away? Yang Kai stared at the huge territory stone with burning eyes. Such a large piece of territory stone, if it could be taken away, presumably even an Origin King would be envious, right? If placed in any sect, this stone would become a hallowed treasure, and many Origin Kings would be born because of it. The gentle territory field it exuded allowed one to safely comprehend it. Sect Master Yang must be joking. Zhao Tianze's mouth twitched. Not to mention that this territory stone is extremely heavy and no one can move it. Even if someone could, they wouldn't dare touch it. Why is that? Yang Kai was stunned. If a powerful hidden territory field is triggered, who can resist it? Zhao Tianze's expression became solemn as he stared at Yang Kai with a strange expression. He wanted to say that Yang Kai was a bit ignorant, but he was too embarrassed to say so. So that's how it is. Yang Kai gently nodded, finally understanding the peculiarity of this stone mountain in the territory. Staring at the stone mountain in the territory for a while, he suddenly grinned. But this is really an opportunity bestowed by the heavens. Since we've come here and occupied a good place, let's not waste any more time and quickly comprehend this stone mountain. I can see many of them are already doing so. Yeah, with just a few of us. Zhao Tianze was stunned. Who else are we waiting for? Zhang Qing and the others looked at him coldly. There was no need for him to explain. They already knew the result. Sure enough, they didn't try to embarrass Zhao Tianze and instead just swarmed towards Yang Kai's group of 3. It looks like you won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Zhang Qing sneered, his eyes as cold as a knife as he said in an unfriendly tone, Don't blame this king for not giving you a chance. You asked for it. Saying so, an extremely sharp shirt suddenly spread out and enveloped Yang Kai's group of 3. The suppression of Shi. They knew better than anyone the reason for this. They had already fallen into Yang Kai's Shi and were unable to extricate themselves. In the past, they had used this method to deal with enemies whose cultivation was lower than their own, and it had worked time and time again. Now, they were being suppressed by a mere second-order cultivator. No one would believe it if they said this, but it was the truth. Their eyes trembled as their muscles bulged as they desperately pushed their Saint Qi, trying to break free from Yang Kai's suppression. Qian Tong and Lin Yu Rao, however, did not give them a chance to breathe. Qian Tong let out a roar and summoned a coin-like artifact from his finger. This copper coin exuded a dazzling golden light, and as soon as it appeared, it split into 2, then 4, then 8. The sky was filled with golden copper coins, and from the central hole of each copper coin, an extremely sharp attack suddenly shot out towards the enemy like a swarm of locusts, creating a terrifying momentum. Lin Yu Rao's tender body twisted as a multicolored ribbon flew out from her hand and wrapped around one of the enemies. Immediately, the sound of bones breaking rang out from this enemy's body, and filthy blood gushed from his mouth. By the time the multicolored ribbon flew back to Lin Yu Rao's hand, the enemy had already collapsed to the ground like a pile of mud, his aura barely discernible. Yang Kai laughed wildly, not paying any attention to the enemies except for Zhang Qing. Everyone else could be dealt with by Qian Tong and Lin Yu Rao. Neither of them was weaker than Zhang Qing, so the two of them working together to deal with the enemies suppressed by their Shi was a piece of cake. Yang Kai divided his attention and divided a part of his Shi to contend with Zhang Qing's while at the same time focusing his mind. Accompanied by a high-pitched bird cry, the Firebird artifact spirit appeared. "Kill him!" Yang Kai shouted as he pounced toward Zhang Qing. The Firebird artifact spirit flapped its wings and descended like a meteor from the ninth heaven, landing directly above Zhang Qing's head, opening its mouth wide and constantly spitting out fireballs containing violent power. Zhang Qing's complexion changed drastically, not having expected the situation to become like this. The screams coming from all around him terrified him, and the joint attack of Yang Kai and the Firebird artifact spirit was even more difficult for him to cope with. After resisting for less than 3 breaths, Zhang Qing's lower abdomen was pierced by Yang Kai's punishing heaven spear, and the Firebird took advantage of this opportunity to smash a fireball directly into his head. Zhang Qing's hair was burnt, and he cut a sorry figure as he grit his teeth and glared at Yang Kai, a look of extreme resentment flashing across his face as a terrifying aura suddenly erupted from his body, accompanied by the faint sound of thunder. Thin arcs of lightning also appeared on the surface of his body, giving off an astonishing momentum. With a flash of golden light, Yang Kai flicked his finger and sent out a golden blood thread, catching Zhang Qing off guard and binding him up. Looking at him with a playful look, Yang Kai sneered. "Do you think I don't know you cultivate the heaven-scorching thunder fire? Do you want to use this secret technique to take me down with you?" "How do you know?" Zhang Qing's face changed slightly. "Because I killed a few people from your brilliant flame sect in the Emperor Garden." Yang Kai's expression became fierce as the golden blood thread that bound Zhang Qing suddenly contracted. Asterisk Walla. Asterisk the extremely sharp golden blood thread broke through Zhang Qing's Saint Qi defenses and cut him into countless pieces, scattering his body on the ground. The battle ended. Only 10 breaths of time had passed, so fast that it was difficult to follow. On Scarlet Wave Star's side, the 6 cultivators led by Brilliant Flame Sect's Zhang Qing had been completely wiped out. On the other hand, Yang Kai and his 2 companions were unscathed. The audience was shocked. All the cultivators stared at Yang Kai as if they were looking at a monster, a look of disbelief flashing across their eyes. They had watched this battle from beginning to end, so naturally, they knew how big of a role Yang Kai had played. It could be said that he had single-handedly suppressed Zhang Qing's group of 6. If it were not for his Shi being so powerful, Qian Tong and Lin Yu Rao would not have been able to kill their enemies so easily. Of the 6 cultivators, only Zhang Qing was able to release his Shi slightly from his body. The other 5 were unable to release their shi at all, and were all suppressed inside their bodies, unable to play the slightest role. How could an origin-returning realm cultivator, who could not display the power of his shi, be an origin-returning realm cultivator? Just as he was about to sit down cross-legged, he suddenly said, "By the way, Yang Kai, Brother Zhao, you decide." Yang Kai smiled brightly before sitting down cross-legged. Qian Tong nodded, thought about it for a moment, then walked over to Zhao Tianzhe, who was standing in place like a fool, and whispered to him. After a while, Zhao Tianzhe returned with a guilty look on his face, found a place, and sat down cross-legged, staring at Yang Kai with a complicated expression. He really felt guilty. Before, he had been afraid of death and had not stayed behind to share the joys and sorrows of Qian Tong and the others. But now that all his enemies had been killed, he had come to pick up the benefits. Zhao Tianzhe felt quite ashamed. If it had been anything else, Zhao Tianzhe would have most likely refused. A person should always have some dignity. However, the temptation of the stone mountains and the territory was too great for him. So even if he felt embarrassed, he could only grit his teeth and return. Now that he sat down, he felt his old face burning hot. Brother Zhao, don't think too much. In that situation, just now, anyone who didn't understand Yang Kai's background would have made the same choice. You don't have to feel embarrassed. How could this Qian not understand Brother Zhao's character? Qian Tong comforted. Zhao Tianzhe smiled bitterly as he glanced over at Yang Kai. But seeing that he was motionless and had no intention of speaking, Zhao Tianzhe sighed and said sincerely, "This Zhao is grateful." He was too embarrassed to speak. Qian Tong patted him on the shoulder, motioning him to feel free to meditate. The stone mountains in the territory were surrounded by hundreds of third-order origin returning realm cultivator, all of them occupying different positions. Yang Kai's group occupied the largest position, so even if there were only 4 of them, no one dared to offend them. The corpses and blood on the ground were evidence of the great battle that had just taken place. On both sides of Yang Kai's small group, there was a large empty space that no one dared to occupy. From time to time, cultivators who heard the news would join in, and when they saw the empty space on both sides, their eyes couldn't help but light up. They wanted to occupy it, but when they saw the corpses on the ground, their expressions changed, and they finally gave up reluctantly. Half a day later, the stone mountains in the territory had been surrounded twice. The number of cultivators here had already reached 200, and there were still more cultivators coming from afar. Conflict inevitably occurred. The larger groups all wanted to occupy the better positions, but the cultivator groups that arrived first naturally wouldn't give up, and the two sides began to fight. From time to time, someone would scream and die. The area around the stone mountains in the territory had become a graveyard for third-order origin returning realm masters. These famous masters from the major cultivation stars fell one after another, and the scene was extremely intense. Qian was still inquiring about Su Yin in Greenwater City, so Yang Kai naturally had to go and pick her up. No. Zhao Tianzhe quickly waved his hand, a smile appearing on his face. It is this Zhao's honor that Sect Master Yang has come. How could I possibly disturb you? Yang Kai gently nodded before turning to Qian Tong and Lin Yu Rao. You two be careful from now on. Hearing the meaning behind his words, Lin Yu Rao was a little disappointed. Sect Master won't come with us? No, I still have things to do. Yang Kai shook his head. The origin essence crystal chi you had ordered him to obtain had not yet been obtained, and the other half of the monster transformation secret art was still in Yu Xiong's hands, so Yang Kai had to obtain it first. The golden divine dragon source in his body was something he desperately wanted to develop. Then you must be careful. I'm afraid no one here is your opponent, but the remaining territory field here is very powerful, so you must act according to your strength, Qiantong exhorted. Once one stayed inside for too long, the demonic chi would invade their body. This was the demonic chi of a Monster King level master, and a third-order origin returning realm cultivator could not resist it. In the end, the demonic chi would corrode one's meridian's flesh, and blood become demonic chi or become the demon race and die. Therefore, in the blood prison, this strange hill had always been regarded as a restricted area, and no one dared to enter at will. Occasionally, those who passed by would stay far away to avoid being affected by the demonic chi. It should be here. Xianxia looked at the bare hill and whispered to himself. This hill in front of him was the same as the information given by Qiyu, the place where the Monster King fell. After looking at it for a while, Xianxia stepped forward and walked straight towards the hill. After a short while, he arrived at the foot of the hill. As soon as he stepped in, the omnipresent demonic chi rushed towards Xianxia from all directions, drilling into his pores and pouring into his meridians. Xianxia pushed his Saint Chi to resist the invasion of the demonic chi. It was a bit strenuous. As expected of the demonic chi left behind by a Monster King level master. Even if it had existed here for tens of thousands of years, it was still not easy to resist. Fortunately, Xianxia had the golden divine dragon source, so even if the demonic chi forced into his body, it would not have much effect on him. If it were any other human origin returning realm master, they would have retreated immediately. After confirming that he was fine, Xianxia walked up step by step. Very quickly, he arrived at the top of the mountain. He raised his eyes and looked around. The surroundings were empty, and there was nothing. This caused him to frown. The information given to him by Qiyu only said that the origin essence crystal was in this barren hill, but she did not know its exact location. If it was not at the top of the hill, then it might be somewhere else. Xianxia silently sensed for a while and made a plan in his heart. Looking in a certain direction, he walked towards it. After a stick of incense worth of time, Xianxia arrived at the back of the hill and stood in front of a dark cave, looking inside with rapt attention. The cave was dark, and he could not see anything. When he tried to probe it with his divine sense, it was bounced back. However, if he guessed correctly, the Monster King level master should have fallen in this cave because the demonic chi was the strongest here. Xianxia was not afraid of anything. He took out a luminous stone from his space ring, held it in his hand, and stepped inside. The deeper he went, the stronger the demonic chi became. The deepest part of the cave seemed to be the source of the demonic chi. After a while, Xianxia finally arrived at the innermost part of the cave. This cave seemed to have been artificially excavated. It was narrow on the outside and wide on the inside. The innermost part of the cave was actually a cave that covered an area of several hundred meters. In a certain part of the cave, there seemed to be a huge object lying across the ground, and an astonishing demonic aura was spreading out from it. Xianxia took out more luminous stones and flicked them around, embedding them into the cracks in the surrounding stone walls. In the blink of an eye, the entire dark cave became bright. Looking forward again, Xianxia's eyes shrank as shock filled them. He suddenly discovered that the huge object in front of him was none other than a skeleton, the skeleton of a huge monster beast. It was about 200 meters long and looked somewhat like an ancient giant crocodile. Even though it was just a skeleton, it exuded an astonishing aura. This skeleton should be the original body of the Monster King level master. Chapter 1606. With such thoughts running through his mind, Xianxia turned his gaze to the chest of the monster beast skeleton. In an instant, his eyes became even more fiery. He could clearly see that there was a dark red, round crystal about the size of a baby's head. An origin essence crystal. It could also be called the Monster King's Monster Core. The two had different names, but they both referred to the same thing. Only third-order origin kings could condense such a magical thing as an origin essence crystal in their bodies. Second-order origin kings did not have such qualifications at all. An origin essence crystal contained a top master's comprehension of the heavenly way and martial Tao, as well as their understanding of their territory. Its value was immeasurable. The biggest reason you wanted to obtain it was to use it to break through to the third-order origin king realm and become a monster king. Looking at the entire star territory, how many third-order origin kings were there? At most, the number could be counted on one hand, and all of them were elusive existences. No one knew where they were, and it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens for ordinary people to see them. But now, there was the skeleton of a master of this level lying in front of Yang Kai, and not only was the skeleton intact, even the origin essence crystal was there. Yang Kai's breathing inevitably became a little rapid as he stared at the origin essence crystal with scorching eyes. Carefully releasing his divine sense, Yang Kai extended his divine sense towards the origin essence crystal. But before his divine sense could touch it, the dark red round crystal suddenly flashed. Yang Kai frowned and quickly withdrew his divine sense, not daring to spy on at will. Qi was right. This origin essence crystal still contained a wisp of the Monster King's remnant soul, so any attempt to encroach on it would provoke resistance. If not for this origin essence crystal and skeleton would have been taken away long ago. How could they have waited until today? The only way to safely obtain the origin essence crystal was to suppress this wisp of remnant soul. Anyone who came to the blood prison was a third-order origin returning realm cultivator. So who had the ability to suppress the Monster King's remnant soul? Only Yang Kai's golden holy dragon's origin power could compare. Gently exhaling, Yang Kai calmed his mood and stared at the origin essence crystal solemnly, motionless. In the darkness, an almost imperceptible shadow was cautiously approaching Yang Kai. This shadow stuck close to the ground and did not seem to have a physical body, nor did it emit any aura. Even someone as strong as Yang Kai did not notice it at all. The black shadow approached little by little and soon came to a position less than 15 meters behind Yang Kai. Immediately, the dormant black shadow curled up like a snake, converging into one and aiming at Yang Kai's back. Right at this moment, Yang Kai's body shook violently as a resounding dragon roar rang out. Immediately after, an unimaginable pressure spread out in all directions. On Yang Kai's right arm, golden scales strangely appeared and wrapped his entire right arm. Not only his right arm, but the back of his hand was also covered in golden scales. When these scales appeared, his 5 fingers suddenly burst with golden light, and his fingernails strangely elongated, flashing a sharp cold light. Dragon form. After cultivating half of the monster transformation secret art, Yang Kai was now barely able to stimulate the golden holy dragon source in his body and transform part of his right arm into a dragon form. His entire right arm instantly became ferocious and terrifying. The black shadow that appeared 15 meters behind Yang Kai was obviously taken aback and quickly returned to the ground, retreating in a hurry. Since I've come out, where do you think the origin essence crystal is? Yang Kai smiled brightly. You really succeeded. Mi Tian took a light breath, the look of greed on his face obvious. You want it? Yang Kai looked at him sarcastically. With just the two of you, I'm afraid you don't have such ability. Be careful you don't end up dying here. Seeing him despise them so much and not take them seriously, whether it was Shuel Yin or Mi Tian, both of their faces became ugly. Although they didn't want to admit it, both of them knew that in a one-on-one fight, neither of them was Yang Kai's opponent. In the palace, Yang Kai had proven his strength. Whether I have the ability or not, we'll know after we fight, Mi Tian coldly snorted. Yang Kai was just about to laugh again when suddenly his brow furrowed and his shirt madly spread outwards. With him as the center, the space within a 10-meter radius suddenly collapsed, and tiny void cracks began to appear like slithering snakes. Chapter 16:07. In the chaotic collapse of space, a cold light suddenly appeared. It seemed to have been aimed at Xianxia's back, but the chaotic space affected the accuracy of this cold light, causing it to be swallowed up by the void before it could play any role. Accompanied by a soft cry of surprise, a third figure appeared like a ghost. His brow furrowed as he jumped back, a dignified look on his face as he shook his head and sighed. Sure enough, he's difficult to deal with. Xianxia remained motionless, standing like a rock on the ground as he glanced back coldly. Somewhat surprised, Lai Feng, you're also here. He hadn't expected that the third person to attack him would actually be Lai Feng from Wild Lion territory. The top juniors of the monster race's 3 territories had now gathered together. Mi Tian and Yin ambushing him was something Xianxia could understand. After all, there was some friction between him and these two, so how could they possibly give up? However, Lai Feng's participation in this matter was truly unexpected. When Xianxia first entered the blood prison, Lai Feng had even invited him to act together, but a few days later, this guy had become his enemy. Atop Monster Mountain, demonic qi filled the air, and these 3 monster race juniors took advantage of this demonic qi to perfectly conceal themselves. If it weren't for Xianxia's sharp senses, he really might have been ambushed by Lai Feng. Lai Feng, I have no grievances with you, right? Xianxia looked at him coldly and asked indifferently. Lai Feng laughed dryly and said in a deep voice, of course not. Then why did you do this? Xianxia narrowed his eyes. Brother Yang, please forgive me. Lai Feng seemed a little embarrassed as he cupped his fists and said calmly. To be honest, if possible, Lai Feng does not want to be enemies with Brother Yang, but this matter is related to an origin essence crystal, so Lai Feng cannot ignore it. Xianxia nodded. Understood. Since Brother Yang understands, Lai Feng has nothing to say. Every tribal lord wants to obtain the origin essence crystal, but no one has a way to take it out. Now that Brother Yang has achieved this, Lai Feng cannot allow you to leave, but if Brother Yang can hand over the origin essence crystal, I believe Yin and Mi Tian should let you leave safely. Do you think I'll hand it over? Hand it over? Xianxia sneered. Lai Feng thought about it seriously for a while, then said seriously, I'm afraid not. If it were me, I wouldn't either. Why are you talking so much nonsense with him? Let's join forces and kill him. No matter how powerful he is, he's just one person. Why should the 3 of us be afraid of him? Yin's temper was the most fiery, so when he saw Xianxia and Lai Feng arguing endlessly, he let out a roar and rushed towards Xianxia with all his might. Releasing an astonishing momentum, the phantom of a huge blood flood dragon suddenly appeared behind him. Yin obviously knew how powerful Xianxia was and wanted to go all out against him. Mi Tian didn't waste any time talking nonsense. The moment Yin took action, Mi Tian let out a shout, and the strange flower above his head suddenly began spinning, its petals flying out and disappearing into the void. Lai Feng's figure once again faded like a ghost before disappearing without a trace. No one knew where he had gone. The fierce offensive of the 3 monster race rookies broke out in an instant. Good. Since you court death, I'll fulfill your wish. Xianxia was fighting 1 against 3, but not only was he not afraid, his expression instead became fierce and savage. 5-colored light suddenly covered his entire body, and with a chi sound, tiny and almost invisible 5 elements sword chi emerged from every pore on his body. As these petals rotated, a sweet fragrance spread out, seemingly capable of affecting one's mind. At this moment, Xianxia had forced Lai Feng back and paused, allowing Mi Tian to grasp the opportunity to attack quite well. In an instant, the countless petals wrapped around Xianxia, forming a strange flower that reappeared in front of everyone's eyes. However, Xianxia had already disappeared. He seemed to have been swallowed by the flower. Mi Tian frowned as he looked around nervously. He could tell that his attack had no effect, and Xianxia had escaped at the critical moment. Want to kill me? The 3 of you don't seem to have enough weight. A sarcastic voice came from the side, causing Mi Tian's eyes to shrink as he quickly looked over, only to see Yang Kai standing in the void unscathed. Mi Tian's face suddenly became gloomy. Lai Feng appeared silently beside Mi Tian, a cold expression on his face, not saying a word. The three monster race rising stars joining forces might not be able to compete with an Origin King Realm Master, but they were absolutely invincible in the Origin Returning Realm. They were not ordinary Origin Returning Realm Masters. They were all top masters on Monster Star. However, the result of this battle made them feel a chill in their hearts. Without much effort, Yang Kai resolved their attacks one by one. Xuelian had been sent flying into the cave, and even now, there was no movement from him. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive, but the remaining two were completely suppressed. Is this guy even human? Lai Feng's eyes twitched as he regretted getting involved in this mess. He knew that Yang Kai was extremely strong, otherwise he would not have been able to teach Xuelian a lesson back in the palace. So when they first entered the blood prison, he had invited Yang Kai to act together. However, after learning about the Origin Essence Crystal from Mi Tian and Xuelian, he could not just sit back and watch. The Origin Essence Crystal was too precious, so precious that he was willing to take a risk. Originally, he thought that if he joined forces with Xuelian and Mi Tian, Yang Kai would definitely be outnumbered, but judging from the short time they fought, the situation was not optimistic. This person was actually heaven-defying to such an extent. With just a second-order Origin returning realm cultivation, being able to achieve such a feat was unprecedented since ancient times, right? Lai Feng, you aren't regretting it, are you? You should know that there is no medicine for regret in this world. Today, either he dies or we die. Mi Tian glanced at him with a gloomy expression. He was determined to kill Yang Kai. Lai Feng slowly shook his head. Once an arrow leaves the bow, there's no turning back. I naturally know that. Let's wait for Brother Xuelian to come out. Only if the three of us work together will we have a chance. Mi Tian did not refute. Facing Yang Kai, he had already put away his pride. The two stood there side by side, their eyes wandering between Yang Kai and the cave from time to time, their hearts burning with anxiety. Xuelian still did not move, as if he had really been killed by Yang Kai in a single blow. However, this was impossible. Even if Yang Kai was powerful, Xuelian had still displayed his Flood Dragon transformation, so his defenses were impregnable. How could he have been killed by such an attack? Mi Tian and Lai Feng could not figure out what Xuelian was doing, and for a moment, both of them cursed Xuelian in their hearts, blaming him for dropping the ball at this critical moment. Right at this moment, an extremely tragic roar suddenly came from the cave. The roar was like rolling thunder, deafening to the ears. It's Xuelian. Mi Tian frowned, his expression becoming gloomy. He did not know why Xuelian was acting so crazily. Really? Why do I feel like Senior is lacking in confidence? Don't you want my golden holy dragon's origin power? If you kill me, everything will be yours. Why are you wasting your breath here? Chapter 16:10. Xuelian's face sank. Little brat, are you really not going to give me any face? Who do you think you are? Yang Kai sneered contemptuously. Good. There aren't many who dare speak to this king like this. Tianjiu, that old fart, is one of them, and you count as another, but you will die here today. Xuelian roared as a blood-red mist suddenly emerged from his body and wrapped around him, making it impossible to see his figure from where he stood, only a blood-red cloud. Immediately, The blood-red cloud flew over an extremely fast speed and wrapped around Xianxia in an instant. From the blood-red mist, a terrifying and astonishing energy fluctuation burst forth, and a blood-red light shot towards Xianxia like a living creature. At the same time, a mysterious force began to spread. Xianxia suddenly felt that his movements had become difficult, and the Saint Qi in his body was faintly suppressed. Territory, territory. Xianxia roared as his shi madly spread outwards, causing the surrounding space to distort and collapse. However, his shi was completely suppressed by Shui Yin's domain and was unable to extend any further than 3 inches out of his body. Shi close to the grand accomplishment stage. Shui Yin shouted in surprise, "Little brat, you really have the capital to be arrogant. With just a second-order origin returning realm cultivation, you've condensed your shi to such a degree, but you're still not good enough." Shui Yin grinned as he separated a thick blood qi from his body and transformed it into a flood dragon that rushed towards Xianxia from all directions. This was condensed from the Mad Crocodile Monster King's own malevolent aura. As long as an ordinary cultivator was invaded by this aura, they would immediately lose their mind and become the demon race. Although Xianxia did not understand the mysteries of this aura, how could he let it get close to him? Hundreds of golden blood threads lingered around his body, as if he had grown hundreds of arms, waving them about. The pressure from Xianxia's territory was greatly reduced. Golden blood threads had the magical effect of breaking shi, and since Xianxia's territory was an evolved form of shi, golden blood threads also had a slight restraining effect on it. 1 or 2 threads might seem insignificant, but when hundreds of them were released together, the effect was obvious. Xianxia's power instantly spread to a foot away from his body. With a wave of his hand, the giant dark green dragon turned into a streak of green light and flew back into his hand, transforming back into the form of the dragon bone sword. A loud dragon roar rang out from the sword as Xianxia gripped it with one hand, poured his Saint Qi into it, and swung it forward fiercely. A dark green sword light tore through space and tore the blood-red violent aura in half before slashing towards Shui Yin, who was hidden in the blood fog. Shui Yin didn't dare to face this attack head-on and could only dodge, but before he could react, a burly figure suddenly emerged from the ground. The stone mongoose. At this moment, the stone mongoose had transformed into a stone giant, and the heaven-shaking pillar in its hand had also become extremely terrifying, reaching a length of 15 meters. The pitch-black giant staff carried with it a heaven-destroying, earth-shattering momentum as it viciously smashed down at Shui Yin. Shui Yin was shocked and didn't dare take the heaven-shaking pillar's attack head-on. His figure flickered as he dodged again, while at the same time sending out a punch. This punch, which contained a terrifying amount of power, smashed into the stone mongoose's chest. With a loud bang, the stone mongoose was forced back a few steps as stone fragments flew out from its sturdy chest. The stone mongoose was obviously stunned. Since its birth, it had never been injured by anyone. Chapter 16:12. Luohai already regarded the Origin Essence Crystal as his own. He had the confidence and qualifications to do so. After all, as the Star Master of Green Mountain Star, as long as Xianxia was still on Green Mountain Star, he could not escape his control. When the time came, Luohai could ask this little brat for the Origin Essence Crystal and give him some rewards. If he was willing, Luohai felt he could even accept him as a disciple. This was a great honor, an opportunity that others couldn't even ask for. For many years, Luo Hai had not been so excited, but at this moment, he almost couldn't control himself. If not for fear of the other Origin Kings in the stone pavilion seeing through his disguise, he would have already laughed heartily. Master Luo Hai, the blood prison will close in 10 days, right? The old woman, surnamed Lei, suddenly asked. Luo Hai nodded after hearing this. There are indeed only 10 days left. When the time comes, the power of the territory inside the blood prison will fully erupt, and those little brats will have no choice but to withdraw. I wonder what their harvest was this time. By the way, is that second-order origin returning realm brat safe and sound? Hearing her ask about Xianxia, everyone opened their eyes and looked towards Luo Hai, obviously concerned about Xianxia's life or death. He's fine. This king thinks he'll be able to come out alive. You don't have to worry about his safety. Good. As long as he can come out alive, this old woman will immediately invite him to join Sword Union. The old woman was overjoyed. This little brat's future is boundless. Although there have been some second-order origin returning realm masters who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth who entered the blood prison, none of them were able to come out alive. If he can accomplish this, his future will definitely be bright. This old master can't wait to meet this little brat. I really want to know what his origins are. Looking at his performance, there will definitely be a place for him in future Stars territory. Everyone chimed in one after another, obviously having a very high opinion of Xianxia. Luo Hai just smiled and did not interrupt. Only he understood that Xianxia was more outstanding than everyone imagined. Inside the cave of the Monster Mountain, Xianxia was completely immersed in his meditation, completely unaware of the passage of time. Slowly, he frowned and opened his eyes. Xianxia noticed that the atmosphere in the blood prison had changed a little. In the Monster Mountain, there was a trace of territory's power flowing over. Before coming here, Chi had said that once the aura of the blood prison changed, they had to leave immediately. Otherwise, they would die without a burial place. When such a change occurred, within 5 days, the entire blood prison would become a forbidden area that no one could set foot in. It would be a chaotic territory that would only calm down after 1,000 years. It was time to leave. He slowly stood up and inspected his gains. He was beaming with joy. He felt that his understanding of force had become much clearer, and he was only one step away from mastering it. This step seemed very close, but it was as if there was a thin layer blocking his understanding of force. However, this was not a big deal. After absorbing the spiritual energy of Mad Crocodile Monster King, as long as he thoroughly comprehended it, it would not be difficult for him to reach the grand accomplishment stage in his Sure. Moreover, when he broke through to the Origin King realm in the future, it would be easy for him to form his own territory. Xianxia could not enjoy this kind of benefit now. Only when his strength reached the Origin King realm would he be able to show it. I wanted to give you a souvenir, lest you forget me after a long time. Shanqing Luo giggled, tears falling from her eyes as she whispered, "Hurry up and leave, if you don't. I'm afraid I won't let you leave." She seemed to have made a very difficult decision as her tender body trembled slightly. Xianxia licked his lips and nodded. "Then take care of yourself." After saying so, he took out a space ring and handed it to Shanqing Luo. "Take this and don't tell anyone about it." "What's inside?" Shanqing Luo looked at him suspiciously. "You'll know in a moment." Xianxia grinned, but did not point it out. Glancing over at Ba He and the others, he said loudly, "You should leave as well. There's no need to wait for Shuel Yin and the others." As soon as these words fell, Space Force wrapped Xianxia, and he disappeared in the blink of an eye. Shanqing Luo opened her mouth, but in the end, nothing came out. Chapter 16:14. Xianxia was also confused at this moment as he stared at this young man in confusion. From the reactions of the people around him, Xianxia already judged that this young man's background was definitely not trivial. This so-called Master Wu Dao was definitely an Origin King realm master. Otherwise, the people around him would not have reacted so exaggeratedly. But why did this guy want to help him? Moreover, Xianxia felt that this young man was somewhat familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. Friend, I've returned the favor in the blood prison, so from now on, we don't owe each other anything. The young man grinned at Xianxia. Hearing what he said, Xianxia suddenly realized he had indeed seen this young man before, but it was only once. This young man was one of the 30 people who had safely withdrawn from the Stone Mountain in territory at that time. Before leaving, this young man nodded lightly to Xianxia to express his gratitude. However, there were too many people at that time, so Xianxia had not paid much attention. It turned out that this young man's so-called favor was referring to this. Xianxia finally understood. The other party was obviously thanking him for reminding him loudly at that time, saving him from a life-threatening situation. This young man was quite interesting. Xianxia smiled, cupped his fists, and introduced himself. Xianxia. Subinbai. The young man returned the gesture. Xianxia gently nodded, faintly feeling that this young man was not simple. This was not because he had an Origin King Realm Master as his master, but because he himself was not trivial. This was a pure intuition that had no basis to speak of. But Xianxia believed in his intuition. However, the two of them did not have much friendship, so Xianxia had no intention of speaking to this young man. Just as he was about to leave with Lin Yu Rao, the surrounding world energy suddenly shook, as if an invisible sledgehammer was striking the void. This vibration was transmitted to everyone's hearts, causing everyone's expression to change. Soon, a mysterious force was transmitted from a distant place, piercing straight into everyone's hearts like a sharp sword. Kai Yang's brow wrinkled as he looked in that direction. Su Binbai also had a surprised expression. He seemed to have thought of something, and his expression kept changing. Someone is about to break through to the Origin King realm. A trembling voice suddenly sounded. His words were earth-shattering. Everyone turned to look at the speaker in unison, their expressions aghast. Are you serious? Yes, this is definitely a sign of someone breaking through to the Origin King realm. This old master was fortunate enough to witness it once before, and although it has been many years, the memory is still fresh. This feeling is exactly the same as it was back then. Someone is definitely about to break through to the Origin King realm. The man who spoke with certainty. He must be an expert who came out of the blood prison. Looks like he obtained a lot of benefits from the blood prison. He actually broke through as soon as he came out. The blood prison is really a good place to gain experience. This person is really lucky. What are you still standing around for? Hurry up and go watch the fun. Breaking through to the Origin King realm is not something you can see casually. I wonder which guy's luck is so good. The breakthroughs of Third Order Origin returning realm masters were generally well prepared. Those who belonged to sects would naturally break through within their own sect. When they broke through, their sect spirit arrays would be fully activated and all security measures would be put in place to prevent anyone from causing trouble. Those who did not belong to sects would also invite trusted friends and family to find a hidden and safe location. Very few people did not make full preparations. The cultivator who shouted at Xianxia before cupped his fist to Su Binbai and said, "Many thanks for the reminder." Saying so, he hurriedly retreated, an awkward smile on his face as he cupped his fists towards Xianxia. "Little brother, I apologize for offending you just now. This one was not considerate enough. I hope little brother won't blame me." The others also chuckled and tried to appease him. Xianxia's face relaxed slightly as he nodded gently. Everyone is too polite. This young also made a mistake just now. As long as you stand a little further away and don't affect this Yang Senior's breakthrough, this Yang will not interfere. Good, good, good. Little brother is straightforward. This one and everyone here thank you. After the disturbance was resolved, almost all the nearby cultivator took the initiative to retreat. Yang Xiuzhu, Chuhan Yi, and the others secretly wiped their cold sweat. Yang Kai landed, nodded lightly to Su Bin Bai, and said gratefully, "Many thanks, Brother Su, for helping me out. I will remember this favor." "It's a small matter. Brother Yang doesn't need to worry," Su Bin Bai smiled freely. At that moment, there was an uproar. Heavens! Master Luo Hai is here. The movement here really alarmed Master Luo Hai. After all, he is the Star Master of Green Mountain Star. So many Origin Kings. Isn't that Senior Lei of Sword Union? Look, that's our Purple Star's Senior Li Wanning. That's Old Jiao of Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce. The 7 or 8 Origin Kings were all recognized. After all, they were not like Wu Dao, who was always elusive. Although they also lived in seclusion, they would still occasionally show their faces and had great fame throughout the entire Star Territory. These Origin Kings came from the distant horizon, led by Luo Hai, with the others following closely behind, arriving in the middle of the crowd in the blink of an eye. An invisible force spread out from these people, and all the people who were close to them involuntarily retreated a large distance. The area of 300 feet around them automatically became a vacuum zone. TSK, TSK. This time the blood prison opened, an Origin King was born. Looking at this person's posture, he has obviously touched the threshold of territory. If he is lucky, he will definitely break through. Old Jiao of Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce clicked his tongue as his hawk-like eyes pierced through the mountain range of world energy and stared directly at Xiantong's position, saying suspiciously, "This old master has never seen this person before and does not know which great force he comes from." The beautiful woman from Purple Star, Li Wanning, giggled. "Old Jiao, are you trying to win him over? If so, just say so. Why bother hiding it? How is this old master hiding anything? Aren't you all thinking the same thing?" Old Jiao snorted lightly. Everyone else just smiled and said nothing. Obviously, Old Jiao was right. This person must be won over, but this old woman is also quite interested in that mysterious little brat. "Master Luo Hai, where is that little brat now? Is he also here?" The old woman from Sword Union leaned on her walking stick and asked while looking around with a smile. To be honest, this Su feels a lot of pressure facing you. My performance. How do they know about my performance in the blood prison? Yang Kai's face sank. They probably don't know, but Senior Luo Hai of Green Mountain's Star can sense some things. He is the Star Master of Green Mountain Star, Su Bin Bai explained. Yang Kai's face changed as he suddenly realized something was wrong. This Zhou was fortunate enough to meet Master Wu Dao once 500 years ago, and thanks to his guidance, he was suddenly enlightened and broke through to the Origin King realm. If we really count, Master Wu Dao can be considered this Zhou's half-master. You and I can even be considered brother and little brother. The brawny man smiled kindly at Su Bin Bai. As an Origin King realm master, he obviously didn't care about his own identity at all, instead vigorously praising Wu Dao. Senior Zhou is too serious. This junior dares to call Senior Zhou brother. Su Bin Bai smiled slightly, his attitude humble. Good, good, good. Master Wu Dao finally has a successor. Little brat, do your best, and don't lose face from Master Wu Dao. Junior will remember Senior's teachings. Su Bin Bai responded respectfully. When we meet again, Master Wu Dao, send this Luo's regards to him, Luo Hai said kindly. Junior will definitely pass on these words. Su Bin Bai nodded. Master once said that in the future territory of the Star Territory, if there are no accidents, the first to break through to the Third Order Origin King realm will be Senior Luo Hai. When the many Origin Kings heard this, they all looked at Luo Hai with admiration, as if receiving such an evaluation from Wu Dao was a great honor. Is that so? Luo Hai raised his brow, showing a proud look as he laughed. In that case, this Luo will not disappoint Master Wu Dao's expectations. Junior wishes Senior the best of luck in getting what you wish for. Good, let's not talk too much. You should go about what you came here to do. Luo Hai chuckled as he looked at Yang Kai with great interest. How should I address this little brother? The beautiful woman, Li Wanning, was the first to ask, looking at Yang Kai with a smile. Everyone else also stared at him expectantly. Yang Kai, Yang Kai. Everyone heard this and frowned, looking at each other in confusion before slowly shaking their heads, indicating that they had never heard this name before. Generally, rising stars in the Origin Returning Realm had some reputation, but this was the first time they had heard the name Yang Kai. Why does this old master feel like he has heard someone mention you before? Only old Gio showed a thoughtful expression. Senior, this is old Gio of Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce. The beautiful woman took the initiative to introduce Yang Kai. Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce? Yang Kai's mouth twitched. Senior Gio may have heard it from Shuiyu. Old Gio's eyes lit up as he nodded. Yes, I heard it from Third Young Master. This old master remembers. When Third Young Master returned from the Emperor Garden last time, he did mention you. Little brother, are you acquainted with Third Young Master? Yang Kai braced himself and nodded. Not only was he acquainted with Shuiyu, that woman could not wait to cut him into 1,000 pieces. This must be fate. These Origin Kings had come here just to win him over to join their forces. Every one of them had an amiable attitude, and their expressions were very sincere. But the more they acted like this, the more uneasy Yang Kai felt in his heart. Since they were inviting him so enthusiastically, it seemed they had some understanding of his performance in the blood prison. Otherwise, how could they act like this? And the reason they could understand was all because of Luo Hai. I can't stay here for long. Yang Kai secretly made up his mind to wait for Qian Tong to successfully break through and immediately find an opportunity to leave Green Mountain Star. Since you understand, what's your decision? Li Wanning asked nervously. From Luo Hai, they deeply understood just how outstanding Yang Kai was. Since ancient times, no second-order Origin Returning Realm cultivator had ever come out of the blood prison unscathed. Yang Kai was the first to do so. This alone was enough for them to win him over. Not to mention that with their eyesight, all of them could see that Yang Kai possessed some kind of mysterious ability. He was definitely a genius among geniuses, and none of them wanted to miss this opportunity. You're tuning into the Eternal Immortal Ballad YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.